Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the TC Hub's coverage of the oldest cup competition in the world. Of course, it's the brilliant FA Cup coverage, so that we're bringing to you live here on the channels tonight. And we've got the brilliant commentary team of JB and Russ, who are going to be bringing you this game between Manchester City and, of course, JB's beloved Burnley as well, who decided to go to the Etihad for this one. So we'll go straight to it. I think we'll go straight to Russ and to JB, and tell us how the two sides are lining up for this evening's massive fixture.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all well at home. It's nice to be back commentating again live. First actual live game since the World Cup final back in December. Anyway, Ortega lines up for Manchester City in goal. Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, Eric Laporte and Lewis. Then it's Rodri, De Bruyne, Mahrez and Alvarez, Foden and Erling Haaland, who's got 39 goals to his credit this season. Could make it 40 today. I sincerely hope not, but he has an absolute brilliant chance to do that today. But Burnley, who are 18-1 with some bookmakers to win tonight, line up as follows with Bailey Peacock Farrell in goal, Connor Roberts, Amin Al-Dakil and Jordan Bayer and Ian Matson, a very good left back who, as Mike will testify, scored a cracking goal on opening night against Huddersfield way back in July. And then it's Josh Cullen, Johan Gudmundsson and Nathan Teller and Alison Ori, Bertinho and Lyle Foster in attack. The referee, incidentally, is John Brooks from Melton Mowbray. And considering that VAR will be under this speculation, as Russ will testify with all the controversies in that Leeds Wolves game this afternoon, believe you and me, we've had a lot of controversy this afternoon in the Premier League. Andy Madley will be keeping a very close eye on, that is for sure. But Burnley, Mike, 18-1 with some bookmakers to win tonight.
Yes, and 18-1. With odds like that, you might be fooled. If you're thinking that you're in the wrong game. Obviously, Cheltenham. We saw some big winners at Cheltenham this week, and
we did.
Some of those were 18-1 plus. So but of course, Burnley do certainly have a chance, even though Manchester City have decided to go very, very strong.
They do that. Yeah. I mean,
yes, indeed, Mike. And I'll fetch JB back on time again in a minute, Mike. But Man City are very, very strong. 7 changes from the Leipzig 7-0 drubbing in midweek, which Erling Haaland scored 5 from. And you can see with the changes he's made, it's a pretty strong side considering who's come in, especially apart from the goalkeeper who's played a good performances when he's played this season. Looking at the Burnley side as well, I'm surprised with one of the changes with Foster coming in for Ashley Barnes. I know JB was speaking off there, saying he was surprised with that as well. And another thing which I'm going to ask you about this, JB, are you surprised that Muric is not playing against his former club this evening? Because I thought he might go with Muric at the Peacock Fowl this evening.
I think I'm not surprised in the sense that Peacock Fowl has played every cup game this season. And in actual fact, when he's come in, when he's come into the side, Peacock Fowl, he hasn't let Vincent Kompany down as yet. So I can understand his logic behind it. A lot of Burnley fans actually I speak to on quite a number of bases, and they say that the jury's still out on Muric, although I think Muric is still a very, very good and capable goalkeeper. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But Peacock Farrell, he was largely untroubled in the last round against Fleetwood. It was all Burnley for 90 minutes that night. But today, you have to say it will be a totally different kettle of fish.
And I just want to say as well, obviously, for those of you that don't know, it's Pep Guardiola against Vincent Kompany as well. And, of course, Manchester City fans are certainly ones that will know all about Vincent Kompany for all the success that he, was sort of oversaw with them, really, when he was captain of their side.
Absolutely,
well, that's it.
And you can see with Vincent Kompany as well, he's got a statue outside the Etihad. I think he'll get a warm reception back from the City faithful. And I think he'll get an embrace as well from Pep Guardiola, his former manager. So I think he's going to get a good reception today. And he's already got some good receptions from what I'm seeing on my monitor from people inside the tunnel as he's walking out, and hugs amongst some of the backroom staff and members of the City team as he gets a good reception, as I can see on my monitor, from the City faithful, and there's a shirt sign that says he's for you, Vincent Company, a banner with Vincent Company's face on, hugging with some of the members of the backroom staff. Ilkay Gundogan out there giving a hug now as well. So could be a warm embrace from him on a special occasion as well.
Yes, and as you mentioned there, Russ, the two teams are coming out or have come out now for the start of this game. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Russ and to JB. We're going to talk you through the first half coverage.
And thanks very much indeed, Mike. Right on the cue, the teams, led by referee John Brooks of Melton Mowbray, leads the sides out. And what a cacophony of noise. Also, Burnley have brought nearly 8,000 up down from Lancashire this evening. Just the 20-odd miles to travel down the M66. There's Erling Haaland, who scored, as Russ quite rightly pointed out, 5 goals in midweek against Red Bull Leipzig. But I think he's going to have a much tougher test against a Burnley side who in the last few games have not conceded many goals. In fact, they've only conceded 3 in their last 10 league games, which shows you the task really facing Man City to break them down tonight. But 18-1, it's a very, very long odds. But as we saw at the Cheltenham Festival the other day, Russ, outsiders can have their day in the sun. What hope do you give Burnley? And you can be totally honest here. You're strictly neutral. Of course, I'm a Burnley fan, of course, before we give you the teams. But do you think if Burnley are going to have any chance of winning tonight, what's their best strategy of success, if there is to be one for them?
Well, good evening, JB. Good evening, everybody. First of all, stop Erling Haaland. That's priority number 1. Like any other defences have tried to do, but been unable to do that in any game so far. Also, to stop the supply line from Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Julian Alvarez into him as well. Stop Rodri's long balls into him as well. So they need to stop the balls into Haaland. Win the midfield battle. If we can win the midfield battle and isolate Haaland, then Burnley have got a chance.
Yeah, and there's Mike Summerby just coming out there. He'll have had a few battles with Burnley in the olden days, the 1960s and 70s. A terrific stalwart of Manchester City, and of course, Vincent Kompany just applauds him as well. Tremendous, as I said, tremendous stalwart of Manchester City. Right, the two teams. Starting with Manchester City, Ortega in goal, back forward, Walker, Diaz, Laporte and Lewis. Rodri were playing the anchor man in midfield with Mahrez, De Bruyne, Alvarez and Foden a foursome further forward with Erling Haaland. 39 goals to his credit up front. And so they're going to play literally a 4-1-4-1. Same with Burnley to a certain extent, but it's going to be 3 in attack. We think with Peacock Farrow in goal, back forward Connor Roberts, Al Cahill, Jordan Bayer and Ian Matson, Bertinho, Cullen, who captains the side, Goodmanson on the midfield 3, with Nathan Tella, Lyle Foster, the central attacker, and Anna Sonori up front. Tella, in fact, the top scorer with 19. On the bench for both sides, Edison, Phillips, Stones, Ake, Gundogan, Grealish, Gomez, Akini and Palmer for Manchester City, Muric, Taylor, Cork, Barnes, Twine, Benson, Manuel Benson, Bastian, Dennis Gorbeau, I still can't pronounce his name, even though he's been at the club quite a long while, and Obafemi. The referee tonight comes from Melton Mowbray, Leicestershire, John Brooks, assisted by Darren Cann and Matt Wilkes. Darren Cann, a very experienced official, has officiated at World Cups and the like. Fourth official is Anthony Taylor from just down the road in Manchester. And VAR, if required, is Andy Madley. And after the controversy of what happened at Wolves today, let's just hope VAR have a bit of a quiet time. So we're all set to go. Burnley in the all dark strip with a bit of red, a bit of pink, to sort of complement it. Johan Berg Gudmundsson will get us away. Manchester City need, I tell you, we're in Sky Blue. We're all on every TCR platform. We'll also keep you updated with the Chelsea match as well, and the Six Nations rugby as Burnley get us underway then. 18-1 shots to win tonight, and this has got to be decided on the night, whether it's through 90 minutes, extra time or penalties. Here's Ian Matson on the ball, knocks it back to Cullen. Now Matson gets it back to Jordan Bayer, one of 2 centre-backs, El Kahir the other one. Burnley, massive odds on to get back to the Premier League. Peacock Farrell in an all-green goalkeeping kit. Gets it away, 3/4 of the way down the field. Zahori challenges with Walker. Burnley having a good start to the first half, but it's a free kick for hands against Manchester City, signalled by referee Brooks of Leicestershire. And here is number 3, Ruben Dias for Manchester City. We play 45 seconds on all TCL platforms. You're listening to us on these participating channels. We're on TCL itself, JB Sports, Storm FM, and TCL2. And we're also on Twitch if you're not that way inclined on YouTube either. Just to remind you that our hashtag or our Twitter feed is at Commentary Live 1. So we've played a minute so far, and Burnley not intimidated in the early exchanges by Manchester City at the moment. In the early stages, it looks as if they're trying to take the game to them.
It does, JB. Yes, I'm impressed with how the company is set up. He'll know how the players are for Manchester City, playing alongside likes of Walker, De Bruyne, and Foden amongst others, and he'll know what they're all about. And he set up his Burnley side very, very well so far.
Well, let's see how they go here with Rodri on the ball. The ball played out towards the far side. Of course, all eyes from a Burnley point of view will be how do you solve a problem like Haaland? Well, we'll have to see how the two centre-backs cope against him. Here's Mahrez, who started on the right-hand side. De Bruyne with a nice touch into Walker. Walker's crossing towards Haaland, but Bear was first on the scene and was quick as lightning to get it away. But Burnley haven't dealt with it yet. De Bruyne now into Rodri, deep inside the Burnley territory, but City going backwards rather than forwards, and it's back on halfway there. But an opportunity there, Russ, for... I'll just come to you in a second because Rodri has the ball here. And in fact, if you go backwards, I'll bring you in. In fact, I'll bring you in now, Russ. An early opportunity for Haaland, but Jordan Bear there showing that he was lightning quick and was very alert to the danger. Or the possible danger. Oh, I thought for a moment Vitinha was going to get in there, but we can bring Russ in.
Yes, good play that from Jordan Bear. He read the situation well. He followed the run of Erling Haaland, got in front of him and blocked it off, and he's done very, very well there as Burnley just winning, throwing deep inside Manchester City off on this near left-hand touch line. But Burnley have started well. They've marshalled Haaland well so far. I'm hoping it's not to the commentator's curse, JB. Last Burnley game I did for the channel, you won 1-0 against Fleetwood. More the same today, please.
Well, let's hope so. I actually listened to a very good podcast with Ian Denter called The Commentator's Curse. If you haven't listened to it, it's a really good listen. But here's Ortega, preferred, who is the natural cup goalkeeper. This isn't the first. This is the first of 4 FA Cup quarterfinals. Tomorrow there's 3 more at Bramall Lane at midday. We've got Sheffield United against Blackburn Rovers. So we're guaranteed at least one EFL side in the semi-finals at Wembley, and then next up we've got Grimsby Town away at Brighton. Can the Harry the Haddocks conquer the Seagulls? And then of course we will have live for you definitely the big one, Manchester United against Fulham, not too far down the road from where we are tonight. That'll be later on. I think the kickoff for that one will be about 4:30, give and take a few minutes. But anyway, 0-0 here. If you've just joined us, 4 minutes gone on the TCM. Manchester City and Burnley has to be played to a finish tonight. We'll get updates from the Six Nations. Of course, there's a decider going on between Ireland and England. If Ireland were to win that match in Dublin tonight in the Six Nations, they would be Grand Slam and Six Nations title winners. And they'd win it for the first time in Dublin, would you believe it, in their history. Also, we'll keep you abreast of the Chelsea scoreline as well. In the other games earlier today, Tottenham and Southampton drew 3-3. Leeds won 4-2 in a very ill-tempered match at Wolves, where there was a lot of controversy amongst others. Villa won very handsomely against Bournemouth. And that's just the name 3 of the scorelines. We'll get you a full... we'll get a full check later when we get a break in play. But it's City on the attack here. It's going to be I've got a funny feeling this is going to be a very open feel to the game. But Burnley have to stay strong defensively, however. And they've got it with Foden now, Manchester City. Infield again to Alvarez. Is it Rodri? Anyway, the ball is played back. It's Alvarez, number 19. Hard to tell with him. Hard to tell with what I've written anyway. Eric Laporte now coming in now, alongside Ruben Dias. There was talk by a lot of Manchester City fans that it would be Laporte and John Stones, but that hasn't come to fruition, although John Stones is amongst the substitutes. 39 goals. It's a club record, actually, for Erling Haaland. Came from Borussia Dortmund for quite a substantial amount of money. But when you're like Manchester City and you've got basically sheikhs funding your team, money's no object in trying to win the major prizes. And it took the sheikhs a long time to win a trophy. When they took over in 2008, they had to wait until 2011 under Roberto Mancini to win the FA Cup. Yaya Toure scoring and Vincent Kompany lifting the cup that day. He's won the cup twice with Manchester City. Vincent Kompany, the ball was with Ortega. We play 6 minutes. Of course, we'll have the TCM man in the match. Russ will be choosing that one for you later in the piece. So it's a bit early for me to start asking him to get his thinking cap on. Here's Alvarez on the far side. Al-Kahir and Roberts doubling up on him. Ball deflects into Foden's path. The ball breaks to Rodri, who strikes it. He can hit a fierce shot from outside the box, and then Mahrez loses possession of the ball, runs out of play, and a goal kick to Burnley. So Manchester City, as we thought, Russ really just started to take over a little bit there. Good block there from Goodmanson to deny Rodri.
Yes, good play from Manchester City, starting to gain on the front foot as we expected, JB, but Burnley sticking to him like glue at the moment. They can't get past him, and that was as you mentioned, good block by Goodmanson on Rodri there.
7 minutes gone here at the Etihad Stadium in the FA Cup quarter-final, sponsored, of course, by Emirates. Of course, the final is still a long way away, even though we're in the last 8. June the 3rd, the final at Wembley Stadium. And it seems a long way off, doesn't it? It's still more than like 2.5 months away, that is for sure. But Mike says Mike's hoping that City win it, but he's entitled to his opinion. Fair enough. I've no problems with that. It's going to be a tough test, as I said at the start. As I said at the top of the game, it's going to be 18-1 chance. But if Burnley were to win it, my word, we'd have 2 EFL teams at least in the semi-finals, because we're going to have one at least guaranteed tomorrow. Whoever wins between Sheffield United and Blackburn Rovers, well, it's going to be a tasty affair down at Bramall Lane tomorrow. Blackburn winning the league game there the other week. Burnley have a throw-in midway inside their own half. Jordan Bayer there. Where's Jordan on his back rather than Bayer? And the throw comes in over the halfway line. Teller, who's got 19 goals this season, chases away. And I wonder how Southampton fans are feeling right now, letting Teller go out for the rest of the season. They could have done with him. They could have done with him in certain games. And that was a bit of an oversight by the previous manager, Nathan Jones. There's talk maybe Teller going in there, but Teller going there permanently next season. Burnley practically there now, bar the mathematics, of course, into the Premier League next season. They're on 80 points and had a terrific win against Hull City, 83 points actually. They had a terrific win in midweek against Hull City, 3-1. Where they just bossed it from start to finish. It was just, and Nathan Teller scored a magnificent hat-trick, and it really, I mean, how impressed have you been with Nathan Teller's contribution to the Burnley cause this season, Russ?
Yeah, I've been really impressed, JB. He's look, in the games I've seen, he's looked really lively. He's caused opposition teams a lot of problems. I'm hoping he can do that today against this Manchester City side, but we know what their capabilities are like, so you never know, he could do that. As
well, meanwhile, Haaland's been penalised there. It's a free kick, ball back to Peacock Farrell, former Leeds keeper. Russell know a lot more about being a Leeds fan, of course. We'll have a word or two about that. We'll have a word or two later about that Elton game at Wolves, which Leeds won 4-2. You can tell in Russ's voice he's a very happy chappy. Although one or two of our Wolves supporting commentators aren't so. Foul there by Connor Roberts, although he claims he got the ball there. Brooks, I think referee John Brooks took about 10 seconds to work it out, and he thinks it's a free kick to Manchester City. Let's have a look at it again. Ball coming in. Well, it's a bit 50-50, that one. I think Foden may have just... So we look for that other side. Roberts gets the ball for me. I think that's a very poor decision from John Brooks. I
agree, JB. Roberts clearly gets the ball there, but I think the reason why he's did that, JB, it was the scream that Phil Foden did, which made it seem a lot worse than what he actually was. It was a clean challenge by Conor Roberts there. Burnley should have been away on the attack there, but stupid officiating there by John Brooks.
Very poor from John Brooks, the referee, I have to say. I don't know how many pork pies he's had coming from Melton Mowbray, but I have to say that he's had one too many today. I thought that was a very poor decision. I thought it was a very clean tackle from Conor Roberts. We just hope we don't have these cup ties. I will admit, Burnley relegated was no bad thing because we didn't have the VAR this time round, but we've got it in operation, and it's a real sad. It's really bad, really. Goodness knows what it's going to be like at Bramall Lane tomorrow when they have to use VAR, because there's no quarter given between Sheffield United and Blackburn Rovers, and it was a really good dip and tuck league game between the two of them a couple of weeks back. Peacock Fowler's knocked that one out of touch. That's tomorrow. Also, we've got Grimsby Town, and remember, VAR helped them immensely against Southampton in the last round, and quite rightly so. It was they got a couple of really good penalties, really good penalty shots given in their favour, and they deserved to beat Southampton on the night 2-1. And then, Fulham. Aren't you glad now at least didn't get through, because you'd have had a thankless task against an informed Manchester United, Russ. And Russ isn't saying anything. I think he's just keeping tight-lipped. Yeah,
I'm still here, JB. As I was saying, I think I'll let you break off and I'll come back on to that point in a minute.
Yes, Manchester City on the attack here. Here's Mahrez now. Ian Matson, who's no slouch either, is quickly onto him. De Bruyne has it just to the right of the penalty area, on the edge of the penalty area. Ball played back inside now to Rodri. And he has scored some screamers this season as Rodri. Here's Ruben Dias cantering forward. And Rodri gets the ball again, touches it down, moves it about. And then the ball goes backwards to Diaz, and who goes backwards to goalkeeper Ortega. Right, we'll bring you in now, Russ, now that the attack's broken down. Still 0-0, 12 and a half minutes gone.
Yeah, as I was saying, with the Manchester United point there, JB, Leeds have shown this season how we can compete and play against Manchester United. Another form of the moment was unlucky to lose at Ellen Road, was unlucky to draw at Old Trafford as well. Should have won both of those games, in my opinion. Just 4 substitutions cost us in both games. But we've shown we can compete against the big boys this season, and I'm proud of that, especially after the last few seasons where we've been getting hammered against most of the big boys.
Well, here comes Manchester City. Ball played in there. Matson only half-headed it away, but then volleyed it away. Didn't get much purchase on the volley. May have sliced it. May have been a foul there by a City player, but the referee allowing it to go on. And as it turned out, Manchester City cocked the whole thing up, and the ball's out of play for a throw-in on the near side. So, bit of respite there for Burnley. But, well, I must admit, even the most cynical of Burnley fans would not have. Well, they thought they wouldn't have had a clean sheet by now, but we're still very much intact after nearly 14 minutes play. And that's credit as well to the way Vincent Kompany's attacked. But here comes De Bruyne. He's got a bit of space here. Cohen trying to close him down. Here's De Bruyne. Good challenge by Bayer, but still Manchester City really coming back at him now. And here is Alvarez, who scored in one of the earlier games. He got a goal against Chelsea in the third round where they absolutely tormented Chelsea. You heard that with Trevor and Chris on the TCF 4-0. It was a real avalanche. That scored 1 goal. Just to remind you that Mahrez has scored a couple in the cup run as well. Here's De Bruyne, who scored in the last round at Bristol City, and El Kahir got back, but he's been dispossessed again. Tell you what, it's a real proper scrappy cup tie, and Burnley are digging in deep, and when they dig in deep, so are Manchester City, which is making it out to be a very good watch here at the moment. Not very good for the old perpetrations for this Burnley fan. Throw into Manchester City, level with the 18-yard box on the left-hand side, taken quickly, and here they come again. Here's Ruben Dias from halfway, up against Lyle Foster, the South African international. Ball knocked forward again. Here's Alvarez once more. He's giving it away. Now a chance for Teller to stretch his legs potentially here. Goodmanson's away to his right-hand side if he chooses to. Gets his head up. Looks to Anna Sonori, who's going to be beaten to it there by Diaz, unfortunately. But Burnley there nearly pouncing on a loose Manchester City pass there. But just not executing it well enough. But here's Maatsen again. Good position again. Here's Walker, right-hand side. Walker back inside again to Mahrez. Mahrez plays it in field. And Walker. Boy, did I give Alan Shearer a little bit of stick this evening when he drew us out against Manchester City. I wasn't very pleased with him. Still not. Still 0-0 anyway. Quarter of an hour gone. Just back, we're nearly at the 16th minute mark. So a quarter of an hour gone here in this quarter final. Remember, this has got to be played to a finish. If it's still deadlocked after 90 minutes, whether it's 0-0, 1-1, 2-2, whatever, we will have extra time. And if it's still level after that, we will have a penalty shootout. And all quarterfinals have to be settled on the day or the night. In this case, we'll get some Six Nations news in a minute or two as well.
JB, while Ortega's just got the ball, I can bring you the Six Nations update. It's currently Ireland.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's Lara Foster. Sorry, Lara Foster's through. Well, he got through for a moment there. Sorry, Russ. Foster got through there for a moment. And here's Sahori now. Sahori trying to trick his man. And the ball goes out for a Burnley throw-in. Quickly, Russ.
At half-time, it's Ireland 10, England 6. England are down to 14 players. Stewart has been sent off. Foul with the scorers for England. Just appear to have lost JB for a moment there. We'll bring JB back in a second as Burnley have to do some defending at this moment.
Yeah, I'm back now. Here's Peacock Farrell.
Peacock Farrell has possession.
Peacock Farrell now to Gudmundsson. Gudmundsson back to Bayer. It's been a good first half to watch so far. Bayer again in possession. Brings it out to Maatsen. 17 minutes gone here at the Etihad Stadium. Burnley more than holding their own here. Zahori switching the play out towards the far side. Here's Teller to run in. Teller with a shot, and the goalkeeper had to make a very good save. I'm not sure whether it was creeping in the far left-hand post, but Ortega could not be certain. Diving away to his right-hand side, but a wonderful move from Burnley, and a corner kick has come from it. And Nathan Teller there, Russ, looking absolutely awesome. He selected his shot, but even so, despite that, he tested Ortega magnificently.
Yes, fantastic effort from Nathan Teller. Good save from Ortega. Is a shot. Is a save which you expect Ortega to make, but a decent effort nevertheless from Nathan Teller. Can barely profit from this corner.
Well, here it comes towards the far post this time. It's not headed out properly. Cohen goes up with Alvarez. I think Alvarez won it. Roberts with the chest forward, and he gets it out towards Anna Sonori. Sonori with a poor ball, really. Quite frankly, it was into no man's land in the 6-yard area, and easy there for the goalkeeper to take. So 0-0. We're coming up to nearly 20 minutes gone, 18 and a half minutes, Russ. And Burnley in the last sort of 2 minutes have just crept into it slightly.
Yeah, Man City starts off the brighter of the two sides, JP, as you would expect with the two sides, especially with them being the Premier League opposition. And Burnley have started to get back into this game. They know the aggregate scoreline of this tie, JB, is 34-1 in favour of the Premier League side. They're hoping to avenge that tonight with the Clarets. Yeah,
Burnley actually, just to add to what Russ has just said there, that aggregate score, the last Burnley win in any competition over Manchester City, you'd have to go back to March 2015 when George Boyd scored a goal on the hour mark to give Burnley 3 points against Manchester City. And the last time they actually got anything from the Etihad, you'd have to go back to Christmas 2014 when they were 2-0 down, and a late Ashley Barnes volley got them a point in a 2-2 draw. In fact, even though they got relegated, they took 4 points off Manchester City, who then were managed, of course, under Manuel Pellegrini, of course. Still 0-0, ball out of play. And, Stevenage legend. That is for certain. So Ireland winning in the Six Nations at half-time. They are 40 minutes away from the Grand Slam, and good luck to them. They've had a really, really good run. I've been very impressed with them. England, ill-disciplined, is costing them very much so. So 20 minutes gone. Here's some of the other results. So Aston Villa 3, Bournemouth 0. This is the Premier League. These are full times. Brentford 1, Leicester 1, Southampton 3, Tottenham 3, and Wolves 2, Leeds United 4. And at the moment in the late game, Chelsea and Everton playing each other, real battle there. Chelsea down in 11th at the start of play, Everton fighting for their lives, and the score on that will interest Russ Spurley, my commentator, is that it's Chelsea 0, Everton 0 at the moment. So there we go. But the ball has been given to Lyle Foster now. The ball played in. It's Anas Aori, it's Robert Patino, on the edge of the area, but he was easily outgunned there by 3 City defenders. And the law of averages state that it was always going to end in tears for Patino at that time. But good little bit of anticipation there from Foster. But it's Manchester City on the ball now with Riyad Mahrez. Mahrez to Rodri. Rodri playing it in. And again, Bayer keeping Haaland at this stage of the game well and truly in the pocket. And Walker has fouled his man, which was Zahori. Free kick to Burnley. 21 and a quarter minutes gone. Still 0-0, Ross.
Yes, Burnley. After that Man City's little spell early on in the game, which you would expect, Burnley slowly creeping into this game, and the more and more it stays a 0-0, the more and more little bit confident in me, JB, as a neutralist, is thinking that we could see a shock here at the Etihad today, but you never know. Don't count City out of it.
Well, you can never write off Manchester City, that's for sure, but... Burnley. Oh, now there's a chance here for Teller. I think the flag has stayed down. Teller's away. The flag has been kept down, so Zahori has possession. Taylor waits in the middle, still on the left-hand side. Burnley having a good little bit of play here. I was going to say that City have had 77% of possession. It's usually the other way round when it's Burnley's concerned this season. But I think they knew that they were going to be under the cosh from the moment one. Here's Taylor through the middle. What a good challenge that is by Diaz, and he had to time it right. Otherwise, he could have run the risk of giving a penalty away. Teller's hurt himself, but I think he'll be okay. Burnley have a corner, still 0-0. But as you say, Russ, they are creeping into it more and more. Good tackle, though.
Yeah, brilliant challenge there by Ruben Diaz. He had to time that well there, because if he had got that one a fraction late, or got there a fraction late, should I say, JB, it would have been a penalty and a potential red card for Diaz for denying the goal scoring opportunity there. Burnley have a corner. Can they profit from this one? The last one, they didn't really test City from it.
Well, let's hope Zahori can do it this time. It's a deeper corner this time, and no one picked up the man on the back post, which was Connor Roberts. The ball knocked back in there. Bale wins a header, and the ball be played in, and Al Kahir had a chance, although the angle may have just tied him in on that left-hand post. It would have took a lot for him to not only beat Ortega, but to get it inside the near post. There's a bit of a wrestling match going on there between Phil Foden and Connor Roberts. I don't think that feud is going to stop for quite some time. Foden gets the verdict. Free kick to Manchester City. Let's have a look. 6 to 1 half a dozen the other. He pushes Roberts, and then Roberts continues into him. I have to say it was a difficult one for John Brooks to give, I suppose. There's Vincent Kompany, who has sort of paved himself away from potentially being a successor to Pep Guardiola. He said he chose Burnley because of the people, and he's come to do a job there. And he's told Pep Guardiola in no terms to stop touting him for future jobs. It's obviously there's still a lot of work to be done, as he said. He keeps saying in interviews, Russ, that they're still the 21st team in the country, which is quite a nice bit of reverse psychology, you would think. On ball forward, and Roberts is there. We'll go if we get Russ's view in a second or two, but here's Foden inside the area. We'll just break off now. The ball is in play. What do you think of the reserve psychology of Foden has hurt himself, actually, and Pep Guardiola wants retribution, obviously, being the manager he is. John Brooks, the referee, needs to just referee it calmly. Now, this is what happened here. Just having a look there. Was there any challenges? No, I'm not sure. I mean, Foden's looking for that for me. I've got to be honest. I think 6 to 1 half a dozen the other there, Russ.
Yeah, I think, JB, when you look at it, you see that Vitinho does stamp on his foot and he's a little bit late into the challenge. But as you say, as that challenge came in, Foden was already going down for me, JB, so no free kick there.
Well, we're going to have to keep a close eye on all this. Well, actually, Burnley have been accused of doing exactly the same in the Championship. Whether that's a case in point, I'm not sure, but That's the lot of El Cahill, that's for sure, and still 0-0. El Cahill takes possession again. Still 0-0. If you've joined us here on the TC Hub, we're well over halfway past the first half now, 25.5 minutes. And then the ball knocked forward and out of play. Back to foul has been given, I think. And Lewis, the number 82 there, in a little bit of discomfort over on the far side. Connor Roberts involved yet again. Or was it Johan Gudmundsson this time? Let's have a look. Well, he's trying to get away from Gudmundsson. I think Roberts wins the ball fairly for me, and then Lewis just comes off worse in that little collision there. I think it's the follow through that catches Lewis, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it is, JB. It's a follow through from Connor Roberts that catches him there, but nothing in that for me. I think the referee got that spot on. We've just given a throw in there to Manchester City.
Who are on the attack, but it breaks down, unfortunately, and Jordan Bear was able to read the situation clearly. I have to say, though, Russ, I mean, we've been playing, 27 minutes, and I can't recall, but, well, just break off, hold that thought for a minute, because here's De Bruyne, edge of the area. He might have somebody to do here, the goalkeeper, but he hasn't been quiet so far. Alvarez does try the shot, deflects. It comes to Mahrez. I think he'll let that go for a corner. He will. I'll hold the phone on what I was going to ask you in a second, because Manchester City have got a corner here on the TC Hub. First of 4 FA Cup quarter-finals this weekend. We've got the first of them, and it's currently 0-0 between Manchester City and Burnley. The return of Vincent Kompany to the Etihad Stadium. It's going to be a corner to be taken by Riyad Mahrez. 27 minutes gone from the right-hand side. Mahrez with the corner. Didn't look on the quadrant to me as Haaland came charging in at the near post. Didn't get a good positive flick, and Burnley get it out. But it's still not away yet. Lewis clearly there, pushed out, and referee Brooks was in a terrific position to see that, and quite rightly gives the free kick to Burnley. But we've played 27.5 minutes, Russ, and I can't recall, I don't know if you can, but I can't recall Perry Peacock Farrell having to make a significant save at this moment.
He's not, JB, but I don't want you to jinx him, my friend, and I don't want to jinx it either, because you know what? If we mention saying that he's not made a save yet, or not a save to me yet, in the next 2 or 3 minutes, or even 5 minutes, he's going to have to make a save, and that's not something that we want to see happen.
But it's going to happen at some point, Russ. I think that's a given. City will obviously, it'll be a given that Manchester City will come at Burnley in a lot of ways. Still 0-0 as Ortega now comes with the possession. Oh, that was wasn't the best pass he's produced, but he's got away with it. And Ortega again now for Manchester City. Inside his own area. I think Lyle Foster should be trying to close him down here. The South African, but he isn't. He's given Ortega the freedom to pick out Kyle Walker on the near side. It's gone over halfway, and Walker picks it up on halfway, still 0-0, and Walker gets it back again. Walker threads the ball out towards Mahrez. Mahrez touches it back. Still 0-0. Rodri in possession. Still 0-0. If you just joined us, Burnley giving as good as they've got here in this quarter-final. Got to be played to a conclusion tonight. Here is Walker again. He's had many a battle with Burnley. You can go back to Sheffield United as well. All those a dozen or so years ago when they met 3 times that season when Burnley got promoted under Owen Coyle. Lost 3-2. Lost 1-0 at Turf Moor and lost 1-0 in the playoff final with Walker. So I think he's settled a few scores against the Clarets since then. Those halcyon days when he was at Sheffield United. Here's Riyad Mahrez now running forward. De Bruyne in space to the left-hand side. Foden is on the left. Here he is now, looking to find Haaland, who jumped above Maatsen and he's knocked back towards Alvarez. Wasn't there. And Alvarez, I don't think, was on the same wavelength. And, Burnley get away with it again. We played nearly half an hour here on the TC Hub and all platforms. It's JB and RV, the commentators, John Stuttard and Russ Vernon. Burnley 0, Manchester City 0, rather, Burnley 0. Here's Mahrez running towards the edge of the area. Thought about a shot. Might break here for Alvarez. Alvarez towards the edge, and Bayer did fantastically well. Skipped the ball back to Peacock Farrell. It wasn't a back pass by any means, by the way. And when Alvarez was about to pull the trigger, Bayer legally came in, took the ball, skipped it back. Nothing wrong with that. And Burnley are keeping this, dare I say it, are keeping this Manchester City attack as quiet as mice at the moment. Still 0-0.
Yeah, good play from Burnley so far, JB. I like how you've set up, and I think the reason when you were on about with Foster trying to close down Ortega, I think Company has got his tactics spot on. I think what he's saying to his front men, don't press, just press when you can, because otherwise you're going to be picked off by Manchester City's counter attack. I think the way you've set up is the right way to go about it, JB. So I'm happy with how you set up, and I think it's how you've.
Well, Matson's going there. Matson's going forward there, but there was a collision off the ball, but it was purely accidental. And here come Manchester City with Walker, but another good challenge. And Bayer I think he's hurt himself a little bit there, but making that challenge. But Jordan Bayer has been absolutely superb at the back. And, if Manchester City were having it easy against Red Bull Leipzig the other night, they're certainly not having it all their own way here in the FA Cup tonight. And I have to say, some of that 7-0 victory was done with an element of dodge, because, let's face it, Edison should have been sent off on Tuesday night before Haaland started ripping Red Bull Leipzig to shreds. And if you just wonder if the referee had got that right that night, would Manchester City be in the Champions League still? That's a question they would be asking. But there's Craig Bellamy, another former Manchester City player, of course, with Vincent Kompany. He actually sleeps at the training ground, would you believe? Here's Haaland, the flag is staying down, and Haaland's going to score. Oh, that is so cruel. And I don't believe that. They don't deserve it, Manchester City. Haaland scores his 40th of the season, but there's no way in the world he deserves that. Very, very fortunate goal. Even the Manchester City bench are arguing amongst themselves. You wouldn't believe it. They're just taking the lead. But that is so cruel and Burnley really. Haaland has scored his 40th of the season, and it's a lot. And now Burnley, after such a promising half an hour, have got it all to do.
They have, JB, and he's clearly onside as well. He's no offside there, Erling Haaland. He's clearly onside. He runs through and just gets the slightest of touches to deflect it underneath the legs of the out-rushing Bailey Peacock-Farrell, or underneath his arm, should I say, as Manchester City take the lead. And I must say, JB, on the balance of playing the last couple of minutes or so, it has come against run of play. I think Burnley have been on top for the last couple of minutes. That's coming against run of play, and Manchester City do not deserve to be leading, in my opinion. They've had a lot of possession, created a lot of chances. Burnley been on top the last couple of minutes or so, but Burnley should be leading, but they're not. It's Man City who lead by a goal to nil, thanks to that 40th goal of the season from the brilliant man, Erling Haaland.
Well, I've got more stronger words than brilliant to describe Erling Haaland. He's just given his side the lead against my team, and I'm not very pleased from a Burnley fan's point of view. And Burnley, that's surely a foul on Cohen. The referee Brooks has got to get on top of this. And he should be booking Haaland for me. That was a horrible challenge from behind. He should be getting Haaland in the book. Disgraceful, really, but it's still 1-0. Peacock-Farrell. The rain has now started to come down here at the Etihad. One ball, nearly found Teller. So 40th goal for Erling Haaland. Don't deserve it, I don't think, on the balance of play. That's 62 games for him, actually. If you take the 5 goals he scored against Red Bull Leipzig into account. Here's Matson now. Burnley on out of this. Let's make no mistake about it. They are on the ball. Can Burnley come back? They've been asked a few questions in the Championship this season from much tougher teams, and they've always answered the question. Of course, they were done out the League Cup in December by Manchester United, of course. But it's disappointing, really, when a goal like that is scored. Rodri played a lovely ball through, but Bayer for the first time was caught out, and it is disappointment for Vincent Kompany's side, who do not deserve, as Russ quite rightly says, to be 1-0 down. It is giving the Burnley lads an absolute blasting there, a roasting there, because he knows his team are still in this game. But here's Foden now. Manchester City are on the charge. Haaland in the middle. It couldn't be too, could it? It is. Oh, no. Haaland has scored again. Absolutely disgraceful again. Foden got him behind. Where was Connor Roberts? The first question you have to ask. And why was Haaland given so much space to make it 2? And Burnley's world has fallen apart in 5 first half minutes. It's Manchester City 2, Burnley 0.
Yes, JB, you've got a question, like Riley said. Where is Connor Roberts? Down that right hand side. Manchester City have just cut Burnley open like a knife through butter down that right hand side. Connor Roberts is stood ball watching, didn't track Phil Foden. If it had tracked him, it'd have been there. And then Jordan Bayer got. They didn't track Erling Haaland either. And Manchester City 2-0 up in what they do not deserve to be leading at all, my friend. And Burnley can be very hard done by to be trailing 2-0 within 5 first half minutes. Man City 2, Burnley 0, and it's undeserved so far.
Well, Russ, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I'm trying to keep my inner anger in because I've got to try and be professional, but I'm sorry, but they haven't deserved it. And Burnley, I feel, have been hard done by. Haaland, again, I mean, you can't question the goal-scoring prowess of the guy, but I just think if Connor Roberts switches on there, that isn't 2-0. But anyway, Burnley have got a mountain to climb now. And what they mustn't do is concede a third. Otherwise, it's going to be a long second half for the Clarets. And we don't want that to happen. So, from a Burnley point of view, they've got to keep it tight now. They've got to stay patient. Not let Foden have too much joy on that left-hand side like he did there. And Al Cahill did really well there. Now then, can Burnley just get a foot on the ball? Just get something going here. They're not out of, if they can get one back. I mean, it's not wishful thinking to think that they can get one back before half time. They've got every chance if they can just get themselves up the field. But as I say, Manchester City do not deserve to be 2-0 up. But you can't question the goals, the legitimacy of the goals. There wasn't anything wrong with the two of them, which is really disappointing. It's the ball's played back to Peacock Farrell. But I don't think Burnley are getting a footballing lesson today. They've just been done on 2 counter-attacks. That's all it's been. And that's all it's needed. Here's De Bruyne now, midway inside the Burnley half. Cuts back inside to Walker. Walker turns. And if you heard a bang there, that was me banging the computer desk when Haaland scored my commentary desk when Haaland scored the second. I'm trying to let my inner anger stay in, but it's very, very hard. I might let off a bit of steam during the half-time interval and chuck a couple of water bottles around. Sorry, Rose, if it's going to be like that. But, you know, and I hope Alan Shearer, if you're up there, Alan Shearer, if you're listening, Alan Shearer, I'm sure you're not. But if you are, thanks a bunch, mate. You're an absolute dork. Anyway, 2-0 to Manchester City. And believe me, I've got stronger words to say about you than that. Anyway, 2-0 to Manchester City in the first of the 4 FA Cup quarterfinals. Burnley, of course, appearing in their first for 20 years since Dan Turnett was the manager, and they lost. And by some coincidence, that looked a clear push there on Foster there by one of the City players, but the referee allows it to go on. And the ball back now to the goalkeeper Ortega. The last time Burnley appeared in a quarter-final was an away game against Watford in 2003. Tommy Smith and Stephen Glass were the heartbreakers for Burnley that day, or were the Watford heartbreakers against Burnley that day. Stan Ternent was the manager then. Since then, Steve Cottrell's tried and failed. Robin Coyle's tried and failed. And Sean Dyche has tried and failed to get Burnley further than that. Further than the 5th round in the FA Cup. Not that Dyche used to take the cup too seriously when he was Burnley manager. Here's Cullen now, midway inside his own half. Burnley just need to get a foot on it. And that looked a clear foul there by Walker. And I think Burnley have to have a free kick there. And Vincent Kompany's asking the question why. Because he absolutely took him out there, and Cullen must have spun about 180 degrees in the air, and all Burnley get for that is a throw-in. And I thought that was a clear foul.
It looked a foul to me as well, Jay, and I'm surprised the referee's not giving it. Maybe, I think if Burnley kept the ball in play, I could understand why he's not giving it, because he went out for a throw-in. It got to be a free kick rather than the throw-in, but Burnley kept it in the run at counter. I couldn't understand why not get it, but there was a clear free kick there for me, JB.
Well, it certainly looks that way. Anyway, here's a chance now for Teller to come forward. Now then, Foster. Now, if he gets his head up, he gets Sahori now. Here's Anas Sonori. He'll cut inside. He's tried to curl it. I don't think it was the angle there for it. I think if he just took it to the line, maybe Teller would have been a better option in the middle. And Burnley can't afford to waste too many more chances like that. Zahory has done wonders since coming to us. He's scored 11 goals this season, but really, I think if you look at that again, Russ, I think he should have got his head up and gone to the byline, because there was at least two, maybe three Burnley players against the same number City, and if he'd have got his head up and got a good cross in there, Burnley could have been in business.
I agree, JB. And also, JB, for me, I've got to blame Ian Matson for that. And the reason why I'm blaming Matson, that Matson broke into the Manchester City half and played the ball behind Lyle Foster. If he just played it in front of him, it would have been a clear pass out wide and probably a better opportunity for Zora to go on the outside. Without delaying it and having him to come back and get out wide Zora, I think that's why Zora did like he did. So for me, Matson to blame on that for that overall decision there from Anas Ori, in my opinion, JB.
Well, inside the last 4 minutes, everybody, ladies and gents, tuning in around the world on the TC Hub and all platforms, and it's still 2-0 to Manchester City. Goals race from 2 goals in 5 minutes from Erling Haaland. I'd love to mention his name right now. But look at that. I mean, it's not a 2-0 game at all. We've had 5 attempts to City, 4 to Burnley, and on target, it's been 2 apiece. So it's not exactly been a 2-0 scoreline, has it, Russ, when you look at the statistics?
No, JB, and even if you weren't looking at the statistics, you were watching the game, you wouldn't say it's a 2-0 scoreline either, or 2-0 game to Manchester City. Even Burnley have given as good as they've got, and on the chance here now, try and get one back before half time, but that pass, his pass should have been out wide to the right there, not to the left.
Well, Foden might, or is it De Bruyne, might keep it in here. He's got past Alcaia, although Alcaia did really well there. And not only that, kept it in, which was a huge bonus there. And Burnley can now start a little attack of their own. But they need to get the ball forward. We've got about 3 minutes plus injury time to play. Foster, the South African, turns away from halfway. Ball's just not going to reach Zahory. Not a good enough ball from Lyle Foster, in my opinion. Asked too much there of Anas Sonori. Walker got there very easily, and another Burnley attack breaks down. Just needed to get more purchase on the pass there, Lyle Foster. And Burnley, yet again, could have been in.
Yeah, 100% JB. It's the final ball which is killing Burnley off here. Foster's final ball, Teller's final ball, Zahory's final ball is what is letting you down in the final third. Burnley are playing well up to that final third, and when you look at Manchester City, they've got the clinical edge in the final third, which is why they're 2-0 up. Other than that, it should be 0-0 for me.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. It's very disappointing to see my team 2-0 down in an FA Cup quarter-final when you waited 20 years for one. It's very, very disappointing, but it's 2-0 to Manchester City. But Burnley not out of this by any stretch of the imagination. And I have to say, it's been very hard going. Teller's lost it to De Bruyne. And here goes Foden, who certainly claims an assist on goal number 2. And I didn't think that was a free kick either. I think Foden has been looking for free kicks ever since minute 1. And I didn't even think that was, I thought that it was a bit on the soft side here. I'm just having a look again. Teller coming in. I mean, he's trying to get the ball, but Foden again, going down as if he's been shot again by Lee Harvey Oswald. And comes the referee to give him another decision.
Yeah, but also, JB, you see it as well where Teller just put his arm, but Foden again was already going down before that challenge even came for me. So
shocking.
Wrong, but I can see why he gave it. All he may have seen was Teller put his arm on Foden and pull his arm back.
Well, if we're going to protect, well, let's see that. Oh, the free kick came in, it's wide. But if we're going to goal kick to Burnley. But if we're going to have, if we're going to give fouls for things like that, we might as well make the game a complete and utter non-contact sport, because that is hideous. I'm sorry, it's an hideous decision. I can see what you're reasoning there, Russ, but I'm sorry, that is not a free kick. And Foden knew exactly what he was doing. Anyway, 2-0 to Manchester City. Haaland with a brace, and Burnley will feel very, very hard done by, as Russ Burnham quite rightly says. There's only going to be one added minute at the end of the first half. To be fair, I don't think there's been that much in the way of stoppages. It has been quite a free-flowing game, to be fair. But it's massively disappointing because it's not a 2-0 score, and well, you can't argue with two finishes from Erling Haaland. But even though I love to say his name right now, but I've got to stay professional. Right, last 30 seconds. Can Burnley just try and create an opportunity now? Bear looks to get Maatsen on his way. Maatsen, Manchester City have practically brought everybody back, including Haaland, into his own half. So Burnley are going to probably go in at 2 goals down at half time. It's probably more than likely now. It's El Kahir has the ball. Goodmanson nicely around the corner now. Chance here for Maatsen to come forward. He's got Zahori hugging that touchline, and if he gets this right, Zahori could cause a few problems. Maatsen on the return. Maatsen Italiani, good shot and a good save, and the goalkeeper wasn't a good save. He palmed it up and under, and the referee is going to bring the first half to a close when Burnley was still on the attack, which is a touch controversial. I have to say I think he could have let that go on for another 5 or 10 seconds to see what might have happened. But Burnley is but Manchester City lead 2-0 thanks to a bracing 5 minutes by Erling Haaland. But I have to say, Burnley have given more than a good account of themselves and should find themselves rather hard done by to find themselves 2 goals down because they've offered so much. But Manchester City have pierced them twice and have got lucky twice. But that's just my opinion anyway. But we'll get a more measured view from Mike Harneman and Russ Sperning over the next 15 minutes. But it's turning, but promise for Burnley seems to be fading. Half time, it's Manchester City 2, Burnley 0.
Thank you very much there, JB. I'll let you go and let off some steam there throughout this half-time period. Obviously, with what's happened throughout that first half there. And I'm going to come to you, Russ, on the performance really of Burnley. I want to start with them. I think you touched on it in commentary between yourself and JB, and it really doesn't look like a 2-0 game. I think Burnley can certainly feel a little bit hard done by because they've had chances, and on another day, if they fall nicely for you, then you could easily be testing Ortega a little bit more and potentially grabbing yourself a goal or two in that first half as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And like I mentioned during commentary as well, it's just the clinical edge that Manchester City have got. You see Foden in there, the clinical edge, and Haaland clinical edge that they've got up front. Burnley haven't got that. And he's breaking down in the final third. A poor pass from Foster, a poor pass from Zahori, a poor pass from Teller, poor ball in from Cullen. He's just breaking down in the final third for Burnley, whereas Man City is not breaking down from because they've got players in there who knows how to be in them final thirds. Yes, Burnley do have those kind of players as well, but Manchester City have got more clinical in front of goal, and that's what's slaying Burnley down. If they're the clinical striker, so on an Erling Haaland type of player, clinical striker, like Ashley Barnes is. I'm surprised Ashley Barnes is on the bench tonight. We've had someone like Ashley Barnes in the starting lineup, then maybe some of these chances in the final third that Burnley are creating, Burnley would have been 1-0 before City had even scored. And like I mentioned as well, Mike, just seeing the first goal again here from Erling Haaland, it was a good ball through, and that's the difference. He just gets there at a peak or foul. And I think I'm not sure if JB will agree with this, what I'm saying. I'll get his view when we come back on the start of the second half. I think if Muric would have been there, I don't think Muric would have come out when Peacock fouled it. I think Muric would have waited a bit longer, and that goal may not have happened that first one. But Man City just got that clinical edge. But Burnley and Vincent Kompany and the supporters should be really proud of how they've set up. And they played really well. 2 counter-attacking goals from Burnley, from Manchester City, should I say, against Burnley. And that's just the difference, really. The clinicality of Erling Haaland compared to Lyle Foster, who's up front for Burnley today.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with that as well. When you look on it as well, I just saw the second goal back just a moment ago, and you said it there. Manchester City were just cutting Burnley, cutting through them at will like a knife through butter, and you could see that Burnley just couldn't get anywhere near to the Manchester City sort of the way that they went about scoring that second goal. But they have actually had a really good first half, I think, Burnley as well. And, as I said to you two just a moment ago, that if Burnley can capitalise on a few of these mistakes from Manchester City as well, then they're certainly not out of this yet. They've got some real opportunity to get at this Manchester City backline, and you've really seen on a number of occasions that they're more than capable of doing that, testing Ortega on a couple of occasions, and also Manchester City being caught out on a few occasions as well, being a little bit sloppy when they have just given the ball directly to a Burnley player. So maybe that's something that they need to play on a little bit. And if you look at the lineup as well for Burnley, I think the likes of Tahore and Teller have actually played really, really well in that first half. De Silva as well, and they're players that if Burnley want to do the unthinkable and get themselves back into this game, got to have a really big second half.
Absolutely, man. Burnley need to have a really big second half. If Burnley can get that all important first goal in the second half, then he's going to completely change what Pep Guardiola said in his half-time team talk. And I'm just looking at some of Burnley have pressed well, and when they have pressed well, they've caused a few problems. Like Teller almost got in, Vitinha's pressed well, and there were times where JB was saying he thought Foster could have pressed. Burnley and Vince Gordon are setting up in a way where at the right times they'll press, and this is what they've done in the Championship. They've waited for the right moments to press, and I'm going to mention Leeds in here as well, Mike. And under Gracia compared to what we had under Jesse Marsh, Javi Gracia is the same. I think Company and Gracia are very similar now. They wait for the right moments to press rather than pressing on them all hell for leather, which then will leave gaps for Man City to play quick 1-2s in and around them and getting behind. Yeah, they did that a couple of times with both of the goals, but they came against when they play. Burnley are pressing the right moments and are causing Man City quite a few problems when they have pressed in the right moments. And that's what I've liked about Burnley. They've settled really well, and if they continue to do that, I can see Burnley getting at least a goal in this game. Hopefully, is one that gets it to half time, but you never, well, not half time, extra time, should I say, but you never know. Burnley get the next goal, anything can happen in this game. Who knows what can happen in football?
No, 100%. And, you've seen when it was 0-0 that Manchester City were giving the ball away very, very sloppily. And if Burnley get the next goal, as you say, then the nerves might sort of kind of, settle in a little bit more for Manchester City there. And Burnley can capitalise on that. So I think that, there's options there for Burnley if they want to look at the bench as well. Ashley Barnes and Twine and guys like Obafemi as well that potentially could come on and have a difference. Bastian as well being another one. But as I just said, when it was 0-0, I think that, Burnley were very much, well in the game and causing Manchester City issues. And yeah, this Manchester City side, yes, they've got a very strong back line out with Laporte, Diaz, Walker, etc. But they're still prone to making mistakes. There's already sort of, as we've already seen in that first half. So the next goal could be really, really big in this game.
100%, man, 100%. Burnley get it. It's game on. If Manchester City get the next goal, and sorry to say this to you, JB, was alongside us, going to get a drink and everything, and to Paul, if you're listening back, or any other Burnley fans listening, if Manchester City get it, I think it's going to be curtains for Burnley's FA Cup hopes, and I think it's going to be a long way back. Burnley need to get that next goal, and they need to start quick like they did in the first half. Get out of Manchester City at the right times, cause them a few problems, get an early goal in the second half, then who knows? Anything can happen, like I mentioned, anything can happen in football. Just look at some of the games in the Premier League today. Tottenham, for example, 3-1 up away at Southampton. Everyone at that point, everyone would be expecting Tottenham to go on and win it. Did they? No, they drew 3 apiece, for example. That's just an example of how the game can quickly change. So even if Burnley get to go back. Man City then get third, go 3-1 up. Burnley may do a Southampton and come back and get a 3-3 draw. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I think if Burnley get the next goal, it's going to be squeaky bum time for Manchester City, and it'd be something that Burnley will have deserved from their first-half performance.
Okay, we'll just leave it there for a moment. Of course, Russ mentioned that there have been some games that have taken place in the Premier League today. So we're going to quickly just run you through the scores for that one. Or for those ones, sorry, I should say, before we get back to the second half. Aston Villa won 3-0 against Bournemouth. Goals from Douglas Luiz, Jacob Ramsey and Emi Buendia. Brentford and Leicester played out a 1-1 draw, with Jensen scoring for Brentford, then Barnes equalising for Leicester before Baptiste was sent off in injury time. Also, as Russ mentioned there, it was Southampton 3, Tottenham 3 as well. Pedro Porro giving Tottenham the lead, then equalised by Che Adams. Harry Kane and Perisic scored for Tottenham to put them 3-1 up. And then goals from Theo Walcott and James Ward-Prowse made it 3-3. The latest of those goals being a penalty in injury time. Wolves lost in a ill-tempered game 4-2 at home to Leeds, with goals from Harrison, Eileen, Christensen and Rodrigo for Leeds. And then a goal from Castro Otto and Mateus Cunha for Wolves, with Castro Otto and Nunes both seeing red for the home side in that one. And currently at the other game as well at Stamford Bridge, Joao Felix has given Chelsea the lead against Everton. And there's about 55 minutes played, and they've only just gone 1-0 up sort of about 2 or 3 minutes ago. And of course, there's one more game in the Premier League tomorrow, which is league leaders Arsenal against Crystal Palace as well, to see whether Arsenal can take advantage of the fact that Manchester City are playing in the FA Cup this weekend. Of course, there's FA Cup games as well for tomorrow. Sheffield United entertain Blackburn, Brighton entertain Grimsby, and Fulham travel to Manchester United. So there's some big games there to see what sides will put themselves through to the semi-final, alongside what looks like at the moment being Manchester City. But of course, there's still 45 minutes for that to change, and an opportunity for Burnley, if they are to get themselves a couple of goals back, to go into extra time and see if they can do it that way as well. But at the moment, Manchester City looking strong and 2-0 leaders, I should say, against Burnley. So I'm going to get ready to hand back over there to JB and to Russ for the start of the second half. I'll be back at full time as well with some more scores and other updates from the Championship, from League One and from League Two throughout the day. But as I was just saying there, all to do for Burnley in the second half. Erling Haaland's the man who has got the 2 goals and is the difference maker so far. But there's still plenty of time for Burnley to get themselves back into it. And as me and Russ were saying as well, Manchester City have certainly not been their flawless selves either at the back. So there are opportunities there for Burnley to capitalise if that continues throughout the second half. So going to hand you back over to JB and to Russ, and I'll be back with you again at full time. But at the moment, it's Manchester City 2, Burnley 0. And let's see whether Burnley can do the unthinkable and put it back and get themselves through to that semi-final place at Wembley.
Thanks, Mike. Well, the unthinkable's putting it mildly. I'm still angry and bitter inside of me, and I've had a little bit of a, I've just let a lot of anger out this during the half-time interval, but it's very disappointing that Burnley are 2-0 down, and we played so well in that game as well. It's been, that's the annoying aspect of it all, that they should not be 2-0 down, but that's how it is, and we're just waiting for the teams to arrive back on the scene for the second half. I mean, what do Burnley do now? They've got to attack, Russ. I mean, there's no two ways about it. But then you counterbalance that, and Man City could pick them up on the counter-attack.
Absolutely, JB. I think if the press in the right moments, how they were doing in the first half, and they need to get that first goal, JB Burnley. If they get that first goal in the second half, then it's going to be a nervy time for Manchester City. And like I mentioned briefly when it was in the chat with Mike at half time, say Burnley get the next goal, then Man City get a third and go 3-1 up. We've already seen today in the Premier League, Southampton come from 3-1 down to win. Well, not to win, to draw 3-3 with Tottenham. Who can say Lightning can't strike twice? Can Burnley come back from, say, if Burnley go 3-1 down, can Burnley come back from 3-1 down to get a draw and take it to a replay? Who knows? But if Burnley get the next goal, JB, they really need to get something. They really need to get that first goal, and that's what they really need to do, my friend. And if they do that, I can see Burnley having quite a number of problems in. Well, Manchester City, should I say, having quite a lot of problems in the next 45 minutes when we get back underway very soon.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, we're still waiting for the teams. I've got a feed of Alan Shearer and Michael Richards absolutely conducting Burnley's football with britchery, and it feels that way. I mean, I've got to speak as a staunch clarity here, but Burnley have been good value not to be 2-0 down, and I feel that 7,000 fans have been a little bit cheated at the moment. I mean, there's no denying the 2 goals, but certain refereeing decisions have gone against us, but that's just the way it is. We're still waiting for the teams to elapse onto the field here at the Etihad Stadium. I don't know what the delay's all about, but there they are now. Well, the Manchester City lot are coming out now, and I'm sure Vincent Kompany will have given them up about half-time team talks. But I've got to be perfectly frank. I mean, you mentioned Southampton coming back from the dead. There is one minor difference. That was at St Mary's, that when they were at home in front of their own fans. This is at the Etihad away against Manchester City. I would say that was a totally different kettle of fish. I know you're trying to help me. I think Mike wants to just jump in and ask a question.
Yeah, so it was just briefly, just regarding what you would do if you're Vincent Kompany now. Regarding any subs, what would you do? What would you look at making in this sort of start of the second half?
Do you want to tell them, JB?
Well, I'm looking at Scott Twine potentially and Manuel Benson, but the problem is with them two. I mean, are they fit enough? And then there's Obafemi, who can cause problems. So it's a tough one, really. I mean, there's lots of attacking there. Barnes could muscle up could cause problems for the front two, but back to Manchester City. But it's a really hard one to fathom out. But Vincent Kompany's paid the top dollar to obviously to make these changes. We'll just have to see what happens.
I agree with you, JB. I agree with what you just said there, and it looks as though Ashley Barnes
is going to come on, and Jack Cork as well.
And Jack Cork as well, who's going to take over the captain's armband. I'm not sure who had that captain's armband in the first half.
It was. Well, I can tell you, it was just Cullen, and Ashley Barnes will be a battering ram, and I think that's a fair thing. I think it's a bit disappointing on Gunman's part that he's got off, because I didn't think he did that badly, but Vincent Kompany, as I said just now, is paid to make all the changes, and I know, and he'll know what he wants. Remember, both teams can use, I think, anything to 5 substitutions now at any one time during the game, plus the next one should it go to extra time. So City is away in this second half, and Burnley have got it, quite frankly, all to do, and they shouldn't have had to, really, considering that they've had they've given it a really good goal. And really don't deserve to be 2 goals down. He is Peacock Farrell, very unlucky on both goals. Really an opportunist goal scored by Erling Haaland, and then the second one, just typical Haaland goal, really just came in on the 6-yard line to stab it away. Just a reminder of the 2 teams then. City with Ortega in goal. And then it's a back 4 of Walker, Diaz, Laporte and Lewis. And then it's Rodri, the holding midfielder, with Mahrez, De Bruyne, Alvarez and Foden, and then Erling Haaland with a couple of goals, which is very hard for me to swallow as a Burnley fan. Burnley playing 4-3-3, a couple of changes for them. Not in goal though. Peacock Farrell, in fairness, hasn't put a foot wrong, had no chance on either of the goals. Roberts, Al Cahill, Bale and Mats in the back 4. It's Coutinho, Cohen and Cork now, as City win another cheap 3 kick. Teller, Barnes and Zahori up front. So look, Taylor was the man taking off, and I have to say, Lyle Taylor didn't get into the game at all, Russ, from my point of view. I didn't even think that was a free kick. I mean, if we're going to give decisions like that, then the game's become a non-contact sport. Free kick though to Manchester.
Absolutely, JB. Free kick to Man City, and can Burnley defend this really, really well, which they need to do at the start of the second half.
Well, they need something here. They need to defend this. Obviously, Foden with the free kick into the mix. Comes out to Lewis on the edge of the area. Might tee it up for Mahrez with the gloves. Plays it in there. Header away by Connor Roberts. Taylor tries to win the next ball, but he's beaten to it. Foden has it now on the left of the penalty area. It's disappointing that we find ourselves 2-0 down in this quarter-final. I say we, Burnley, that is. I'm trying to be as unbiased as I can, but Burnley have really given it a good account of themselves, and 41 goals this season. It's a great record, but it's just annoying, and it comes against your team. Anyway, still 2-0, and here's Connor Roberts. Burnley still very much in it. If they can, as Russ quite rightly says, if they can get the next goal, they're right back in this game. Here's Bailey Peacock-Fowler, who's done really well, I have to say, tonight as well. Here's Jack Cork. Cork in possession. And here's El Cahill. They just need one break here, Burnley. They're in business. Ashley Barnes, who loves a good tear up against the big teams. We've seen that down the years. As I said earlier in the game, he scored a great volley in 2014 to give Burnley a share of the spoils in a league game against Manchester City. And Burnley were 2-0 down at this stage in that match as well. So maybe we're tempting a little bit of possible good fate here. And just remind you, Russ mentioned a replay during the interval. I've got to tell you that there's no replays from the sixth round. It's straight knockout tonight. We have to get a decision one way or the other. Now then, here come Burnley now, looking to get themselves back into this game. They're a very capable side. They've done terrifically well in the Championship. Champions electing for my money. And here's Teller to Coutinho. Coutinho now on the right-hand side. Uses Cork. They need that Grafton guile there. He chips it forward and almost got something for it. Cork then tries to block and attempt to clear it. He goes out of play and behind for a goal kick. But Burnley still need to keep plodding away. Vincent Kompany is a man that doesn't get beaten easily, and he'll know that whilst the game is still if they can get one back, the game is anyone's to be taken. But it's not a fair reflection of what's gone on before. And Alan Shearer was enjoying himself in that half-time interval when I was breaking up. I didn't hear anything that Mike or Russ said at half-time. I unashamedly took my headset off, threw it down in disgust, and had to listen to what that vile Alan Shearer had to say about Burnley, and it felt like he was conducting our FA Cup obituary. It seemed that way, but 2-0 it is, and it's looking. It does look hopeless now for Burnley, and even though they have been very much in this game. Lewis with the throw back to De Bruyne. Now then, Taylor will have to chase that one down if he can. Laporte gets it back to Ortega. And Taylor, they're trying to close Ortega down. I like what he tried to do there. That was interesting. But Burnley, I don't think will shy away from their attacking principles in the second half. But they knew full well that City were going to have at least 70% possession of the ball. That was a given. But at the moment, it's looking as each moment ticks by, and they cannot afford to lose another goal to Manchester City, that's for sure. Ball played into the penalty area, looking for Foden. Foden turns away. They claim handball. Oh, that's a harsh decision against Jack Cork. It's got to be harsh. It's brushed him on the arm. How can John Brooks say that? He's fallen for the appeals against Manchester City. I don't care. I mean, it's a harsh decision, that. And, well, it's a free kick to Manchester City, but I know there was a hand there, but I think that was purely accidental, and I think the referee was wrong to give that as well.
I'm not sure, JB. I think Cole knew what he was doing there, and it was a clear handball. And for me, JB, I know this is not what you want to hear, but what I would say is, JB, if that was the other way around, I think you'd be saying that's a free kick and an handball there. So I don't know how you can say that's not when other way around you probably would have said it was a free kick.
Well, it's just hard when you're getting the decisions against you, I suppose. But anyway, it's a free kick to Manchester City, and it's De Bruyne to take it right-footed into it goes. Well, maybe a little justice done there. He hit it very much underneath, and if it had been rugby league, he would have had 3 points. But in this game, he gets nothing. Goal kick to Burnley. So we've had 51 and a half minutes of this game, 6.5 of this second half. And Vincent Kompany there as well, as we look at Mike Summerby, the Manchester City. Well, he's a Manchester City and Burnley legend. He played for Burnley as well towards the back end of his career as well. So he's got a foot in camp for both sides. So he has played for both sides. Another dubious free kick given to Manchester City again. And it's been one of those nights really where Burnley really stuck to the guns, but then have. It feels a little bit of a letdown after so much promise in this half an hour of the game, and then to lose 2 goals in quick succession like that. I don't care if he's world class. I don't care if he's got 41 goals this season, but he should not have been allowed to score twice there, Erling Haaland. Anyway, free kick. Surely Burnley should have had a free kick there because Teller was quite clearly, in my opinion, bundled off the ball. But again, referee Brooks ignores that, and here's Foden. And Haaland is not going to get his hat-trick. That's one thing Burnley should be determined to do, to stop him scoring a hat-trick. That's what they should try and do. Anyway, here's Rodri now for Manchester City to De Bruyne. And De Bruyne tries to run at his man there, but he's retreated back. Here's Laporte. It's still 2-0. Diaz comes forward. And the ball threaded out to Foden. Foden again back inside. De Bruyne. And 1 step away from Wembley. Burnley are going to be denied. And in a lot of cases, that looks offside to me. Morris is through, and that surely must have been offside there against Kyle Walker. The linesman didn't put his flag up, but I think he should have done at that point because that looked quite clearly an offside decision against Kyle Walker as the ball was played over. Oh, I'll tell you what, if it had gone to VAR, I don't think that goal would have stood. Certainly Marber's was offside, but City again, I think they've got away with it. But, I mean, it's a great save from Peacock Farrell, but the flag should have got up in the first place for offside. Absolutely ridiculous.
For me, Morris was the one offside, but the ball wasn't played towards Morris.
Well, let's just break off because Rodri tried a shot. He's just got it over. Carry on, Russ.
Yeah, the ball wasn't played to Riyad Mahrez there, JB. So I think that's why the flag didn't go up. Because when the ball was played, Kyle Walker was just being kept on by, I think it was Jordan Bayer on the centre back on his near side, on that far side. I think he just kept him on, and that's why the flag didn't go up. He kept Walker on. But
well, if it had gone,
one that was offside, and he wasn't interfering with play, in my opinion, when he didn't impact where the ball was going.
Manji Barnes is on the chase there. Just going back to that, it's 50-50 whether he was onside or not for me. It would have been interesting if he had gone to VAR. Here's Haaland inside the penalty area. He could wrap it up now. Haaland shoots. Good save. That's a great save from Peacock Farrell. And he's kept Burnley in the FA Cup for now. As Walker comes charging through his hurdle. One challenge, and he's done it superbly, to be fair. Ball played in. He's headed back, and Barnes then volleys it away. No nonsense towards the halfway line where it goes out of play. And Vincent Kompany, I'm afraid to say, made a half-hearted attempt to try and get the game going again. His team being 2 goals down needed to there, but really, I mean that was a clear push there in the first place by Haaland on Bayer. But having said that, though, Peacock Farrell made a good save.
That's what Peacock Farrell can do, JB. As you know, I've seen him play for Leeds before. He's a great shot stopper. Only time when I've seen him troubled at Leeds and at Burnley is when balls come into boxing crosses. That's the only time I've seen Peacock Farrell struggle. When he's faced shots like he has done there with Haaland, he's done really, really well. And I just want to ask you a quick question as well, JB. On the first goal, as I break off as Manchester City.
Yes, here's Alvarez inside the area. Alvarez shoots and it's charged away. Comes to Walker, played in there towards the penalty area. Cohen got it out. Burnley still trailing 2-0. We'll go to Russ in a minute for a question he's dying to ask me here. As Burnley look to try and see this attack out. As the ball is played towards well Foden here. 10 minutes gone in the second half and 2-0 still to Manchester City. Ortega now. We'll just hold the thought with Russ for a second because you never know what might happen next in this game. It's very difficult to come to Ross at certain points now. Hopefully the ball will go out of play so we can bring him in, but Mahrez has kept it in. And here come Manchester City again. Here's Haaland. It's a high tackle from Jack Cork. It really was, but it's still not away yet, and it's Manchester City with De Bruyne who shoots, and it hits Bayer and it goes over the top. It will be a corner. Now, you were going to ask me a quick question, weren't you, Russ?
I was, yes, JB. On that first goal from Erling Haaland, do you think if Muric was in the net, do you think he would have come out as far as Peacock Farrell did? Or do you think he would have stayed back and let potentially your defenders deal with that one?
It's a hard one to say. I think Peacock Farrell was well within his rights to come out and narrow the angle. I think Muric would have actually done the same, to be quite honest with you. Anyway, here's the corner taken by Mahrez. It's an outswinger to Wells Bond who got the header in. It's an easy save, really, for Bailey Peacock Farrell, who kicks away from his hands. Yeah, I think Peacock Farrell had to go and try and narrow the angle and make it difficult for Erling Haaland. But he's such a sort of slippery finisher, is Haaland, as you well know. He has to be so slippery to score 41 goals. It's I don't think if you put Muric or even put Jordan Pickford in that, or put any of the England's keepers in that we've had, Tom Heaton or Nick Pope in, I think it would have been. I think they would have done exactly the same thing. So no blame attached at all to Peacock Farrell on any of the two goals. It's De Bruyne now to Mahrez on the left-hand side. He cuts in field. Mahrez, but showed a little bit too there, but Cohen nearly nicked it. And here's a chance, but it's off the post. Oh, it had to be him, didn't it? Had to be him. Erling Haaland. No way has he deserved a hat-trick tonight. Foden hit the post. He was quite unlucky, to be fair. But Burnley do not deserve to be 3-0 down. And Erling Haaland has claimed a hat-trick. That's his 42nd of the season. And Burnley, unfortunately, are heading out of the FA Cup. It's Burnley 3. It's Manchester City rather 3. Burnley 0. Wishful thinking, I know.
Yes, wishful thinking there, JB. But how do you solve a problem like Erling Haaland when you're the opposition team? Do not give him space like that to finish when shots come back off of the post. Fantastic play from Phil Foden, who was very unlucky. Mahrez with the ball into Haaland, back to Mahrez. Good ball into Phil Foden, who's onside. Shaw cannon off the post, and then he come back into the path of Haaland, who's in the right place at the right time to stick out the leg and finish it beyond Peacock Farrell and beyond the helpless Bayer on the line as well. Peacock Farrell in no man's land. Bayer trying to cover on the line. City 3-0 up, and it looks like it's curtains now for Burnley in the FA Cup, so to say, JB and Paul.
Well, it's hard for me to take, really, because from a Burnley fan's point of view, because we were dreaming of a first semi-final since 1974. The night we beat Fleetwood 1-0, and then Alan Shearer goes and rigs the draw. That's the most upsetting aspect of it all. And I will not take that as this is not a 3-0 game. I'm not gonna take that. I'm gonna that's never a 3-0 score for love nor money. Burnley should not be 3-0 down in this game at all. They've given so much energy to it, and City got lucky there. The ball off the post. There's nothing Peacock Farrell incidentally could have done with the third either, and it's becoming a rout now, unfortunately. And here's Mahrez, and I'm just hoping and praying that he takes Haaland off now, even though he's ruined Burnley's chances of a Wembley appearance here. It's an absolute shame that this has had to happen. I know the odds were quite stacked against us, but It's probably about 40-1 now, if we're being honest, if we're going to get 3 in this game. And I don't think we're going to go to extra time either. It's so disappointing. It's been very disappointing. It really has, because there's no way in the world that Burnley deserve to be 3-0 down. And it's just the way the goals have happened, really, that really will hurt Vincent Kompany's man more than anything else, as Mahrez comes charging into the penalty area, and here could be more trouble here, and it's going to be a tap in for Alvarez, and it's 4-0, and this is turning into a riot for Manchester City. I'm afraid it's turning into such a one-sided game, and I have to be honest with you, it's not a 4-0 scoreline. Burnley have been torn apart again, and it's so disappointing to see this happening in front of my very eyes. It's really City heading to the semi-finals. I don't think there's any question about that. And as far as Burnley's season is concerned, it's all over. Burnley are 4-0 down.
Yes, JB, poor defensive play again from Burnley. It's brilliant play from Manchester City. Mahrez down the right-hand side, brilliant ball into Kevin De Bruyne, whose cutback is absolutely fantastic. But where was the Burnley's defence here as soon as this cutback? It's static. Look, you can see it. I'm just watching this again here now, JB. You can see Akdal, Roberts, all just, especially Akdal, just standing there watching the ball go past him. Why did he try and stick out a foot and put it behind for a corner to Manchester City? I don't know. He just stood there, watched the ball go past him, watch the ball land at Alvarez, and see that being 4-0 to Manchester City.
Well, no one's going to wipe the smug smile off Haaland's face, and he is smug. He may have scored a hat-trick, but he hasn't deserved it. Obafemi's coming on for Burnley, incidentally. So Palmer comes on, and Akinyi comes on for Diaz, but it makes no difference now. There's no way City are going to lose this now from 4-0. And he can smile as much as he wants. He's got lucky on 3 occasions. He's done nothing in that game. He's done absolutely nothing. And yet he scored 3 goals. And that's what irks me really about this scoreline, because it's not 4-0 to Manchester City. It should not be a 4-0 Manchester City result. And it's an absolute travesty that Burnley are 4-0 down in this game. I know Russ mentions about the defending there, but Burnley have given up. And they've given up in the most unfortunate way possible. I just can't fathom why it's 4-0. I just can't fathom it, because Burnley have been given as good as they've got, and yet they've given away 4 really, really unfortunate but very soft goals. And it's deeply, deeply disappointing. And I've got to still describe the next 25 minutes of this. And I just told, but for 4th official Anthony Taylor just takes pity on Burnley at this point and just shows 1 minute at a time added on. And I'll be quite happy to put the microphone down at the end of this game. In fact, I'll probably toss it down in anger, because quite frankly, this has not been a 4-0 Manchester City scoreline by no means. As Obafemi, I don't know who he's replaced, by the way. He's replaced Nathan Tella. And it's really disappointing, really, because Burnley have come here, they've given it a good go, and in the second half, they've just practically given up. They've totally given up, Russ, haven't they, really, at this stage? At 2-0 down, they should be... At 2-0 down, they should have tried a lot harder than what they've done, and when Haaland has scored the third, they've just completely caved in and given up.
Absolutely, JB. Absolutely, my friend. They've given up Burnley, and for some reason, I don't know why, Burnley not continue to play how they was in the first half. If they played like they did in the first half, it won't be 4-0 right now, and I can't understand that whatsoever, as we see Calvin Phillips and Sergio Gomez.
Phillips, yeah, Rodri's coming off.
For Rodri and Rico Lewis are the players coming off.
Yeah, Rico Lewis,
Manchester
that's his name.
City.
Yeah. Well, if only Pep did that at 2-0 rather than 4-0, it would have made an interesting finish. But there you go. It's just very disappointing, really. But there you go. It's 4-0, and let's see if we can get any comments. No comments. You are allowed to comment, guys, if you are on YouTube. I don't think I need to ask Russ to get his thinking cap on, because I think I probably know what he's going to choose his player of the match, and yeah, I'll ask him. I'll ask him about 85 minutes in before we ask him the player of the match. But I think I've got a fair idea. I don't think he'll need to get his thinking cap on this evening. Anyway, the ball is back with Ortega, who's actually been quite redundant in the second half. He hasn't needed to, apart from just play some short passes out here or there. He hasn't really been needed at that time. But it's just bitterly disappointing. At 2-0, you're still in the game, and then Burnley just simply have given up. And it's so disappointing to see it. And I hope, I mean, the season is over as far as I'm concerned. There's no way Burnley are going to lose the league. And, you know, the FA Cup was an opportunity here to get through to Wembley. I know it was Manchester City, but to go out in such a limp way and like that is frankly unacceptable and very disappointing, especially after all the hard work Burnley had put in the first half an hour. It's really disappointing to see it. To giving up like that, it's just quite frankly unacceptable.
Absolutely, JB. I don't know why Burnley have given up. Maybe they've got their eyes on finishing the job in the Championship rather than the eyes on what the prize is on offer in this game. I'm not 100% sure why.
They don't need. Well, they don't really. They only need a couple more points and they're promoted anyway, and they're going to be champions in any case. Why not have a go? Why not try? It's a Wembley place. Burnley don't get to Wembley often enough. Why not have a go? That would be the question I'd be asking. Anyway, here's De Bruyne for Manchester City. Oh, they're through again. It's Foden. He's knocked the ball back, and that's a terrific save from Peacock Barrow, but the ball has been tapped in by Cole Palmer, and it's becoming an avalanche, quite frankly, for Manchester City. They've gone 5-0 up, and I have to feel some sympathy for Bailey Peacock Farrell, who's done so well in this game, and only to have 5 put past him, and it's becoming, I'm ashamed to say, a one-way traffic. Manchester City 5, Burnley 0, and Burnley have well and truly given up in this second half, and I have to say, it has been disgraceful viewing. Russ Vernon.
Yes, JB, absolutely disgraceful from Burnley in the second half. I was praising Company and his tactics in the first half, but the second half, he's looked like he's ripped up his tactics that was working so well, and going out and said, try and get that early goal in that second half to change the complexion of the game, and gone toe-to-toe with them. And this is what I'm on about. The pressing has been so different from the first half, which is why Manchester City have been allowed to pick apart Burnley in the second half. And Cole Palmer, after coming on a couple of minutes ago, gets on the act on the score sheet. 5-0 Man City, and I can only see it being more, JB, and I'm afraid I could see it being double figures by the end of the game. I hope I'm wrong for you, my friend.
Well, let's hope you put the curse on them there. Not that we're going to win 5-4, but not that we're going to win 6-5, by the way. Would be funny if we did, to be quite honest with you. But it's. I mean, I have to question the validness of the draw, the actual draw 2 weeks ago. Did Shearer look at one of the balls and just pick Burnley out? I mean, I know someone had to play Manchester City, but I'd have rather it been somebody like Blackburn Rovers. As the shot comes in, it's saved, comes to Alvarez, and Alvarez shoots, it's charged away. I mean, there's been better teams than Burnley that have come here and got themselves absolutely beaten here. I mean, Chelsea were poor in there. I mean, Chelsea were beaten 4-0 in the third round, and they've got a decent side as Calvin Phillips shoots right-footed over the top, and that would have been a lovely goal if he had scored. To be fair to the former Leeds United ace, goal kick to Burnley, but I suppose, I mean, Chelsea gave up early doors in their fourth round tie, but it's just a shame, really, from the neutral's point of view, from a game point of view, that Burnley have not tried at all in the second half for us. It's been a disappointment, really.
It has, JB. I was like I keep saying to you, and like I was saying at half time, I was full of praise for Burnley in that first half.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
How well he set up when he was pressing, and I thought to myself at half time, if Burnley continue that same vein in the second half, then he's going to end up being a very close game. Some idea he's gone the opposite direction, and I can't seem to work out why.
Well,
do you know why, JB?
they're just practically giving in. They've given in, and that's a foul. That's a clear foul there. The referee, that's an obstruction for me on Connor Roberts and John Brooks. Hang your head in shame, because that was a clear free kick in my opinion. Roberts was clearly blocked off the ball, and that just sums up that as well. The poor refereeing as well, it's not really contributed to the defeat as such, because Manchester City have found it, in fairness, quite easily to pick away through Burnley in the second half, but that looked a clear free kick. But none of it's going to make a cat in hell's difference to the outcome of this result today. Still 5-0 to Manchester City if you've just joined us. But for about 35 minutes of this match, it didn't look as if it was going to go to that sort of form. I mean, City have branched out in the second half. I don't think there's any denying that. But now, can Maatsen get something here? Maatsen on the ball. He's got Obafemi in the middle, but I think Obafemi might have been offside as well as that ball was played. But the referee is allowing it to go on. But at least they've had an attack, Burnley, which is something, I suppose. But it's, that's poor, really, from the defender Al Kahiri. That's really poor. And City coming in for number 6, and they are. Alvarez gets his second. Oh my days! This is turning into a great tragedy for Burnley this time. A mistake by Al Kahiri at the back, and Alvarez twisted him one way or the other. And once he got through, 1-on-1 with Bailey Peacock-Farrell, there was practically no contest, and Manchester City now lead Burnley 6-0. And it's becoming a Greek tragedy now for Burnley. It's a disgrace. Ross Vernon.
Yes, absolutely, JB. I can't believe what Alcadal was doing there. He had no chance of getting the ball, so I don't even know why he was trying to get the ball. As soon as that ball's being flicked on, Alvarez plays it there. De Bruyne just plays him in there. He's got no chance of getting the ball. He might as well have just get up there out Cadal. He went down on the floor, slipped over because of the wet surface from the rain, and Manchester City have just punished Burnley. They are 6-0 up, but nothing there that Bailey Peacock-Farrell could do about that goal. Man City 6, Burnley 0, and I can see more goals coming here, JB.
Well, I'm normally at this point I would disagree with you, but actually, as I'm sitting here watching this with you right now, it could happen. It could actually, honestly happen. And this second half, it hasn't actually felt like men against boys. It has to be said. It's 6-0 as we see there. Alvarez with his second goal there. And now it's just a case of how many now for Manchester City, unfortunately. And this is not a. Let me just tell you this now. If the FA Cup were looking for a good advert, they have not got it. Alvarez has been penalised, and about time too. Just a shame it's come a bit 75 minutes too late and 6-0 down for the referee to start taking action here. It's a total disgrace. But there you go. Well, I'll be honest with you, Mike. I will be storming off after I've finished the commentary, and I will have quite a few choice words to say on social media about Burnley's second half performance, especially because it quite frankly hasn't been good enough, as me and Russ have quite rightly surmised this evening here at the Etihad. It's been so disappointing to watch. But 15 minutes to go. Can Burnley at least get a couple back and just save a little bit of face, maybe, and just salvage a bit of pride? The season's over as far as I'm concerned for Burnley. Promotion and the Championship title are definitely in the bag. But the FA Cup was a real opportunity for Burnley, especially if they'd beaten Manchester City today, and then if Grimsby or Blackburn or Blackburn or Sheffield United had got through, then what a chance they could have had. And it's just a shame that we've seen Manchester City score 6 goals in this game, and there's no way, certainly after half an hour's play, you would not have told the difference. I mean, City's quality is shown, but they have got to be questioned here they've spent money, and I think when you're playing a team that's owned by an entire load of sheikhs, is it any? Oh, Peacock-Farrell, what were you doing there? He hit it straight against Alvarez and nearly claimed a hat-trick himself. Brainless football for Bailey Peacock-Farrell. His first mistake, in my opinion, of the night, and he was totally brainless, Russ. Brainless here, and if that had cost him a goal, Well, you'd have had no sympathy from me.
Yes, Paul there from Pico foul. Why he should have just put his foot through it straight away instead of trying to take the extra touches. Burnley make a double substitution in
Quite
now
frankly, I don't see the point. Quite frankly, no
as,
point.
Vi- as Vitinha comes off. He's one of them. Not sure who's come on, and Nathan
And
Taylor's going to be the other.
he's had a poor game,
Ian
Vitinho. He's
Master's
had
going
a
to be the other. Is
yeah.
Vitinha off
Taylor's
for
on.
Bastian?
Well, what's the
And
point?
Master off for Taylor?
I'm sorry, Russ, but what's the point? What's the point? You're 6-0 down. What is the point? Why would you come on at 6-0 down? It's not good enough. I'm not criticising Vincent Kompany. I'm not criticising Ross this season. But tonight, I am going to let rip and say, you have not done yourself justice tonight. I'm sorry. The second half has been appalling. It's been appalling to watch. And if you are listening, I hope you're not actually, by the way, but if you are Vincent Kompany, then I'm afraid you have been made to look a complete dork of a manager tonight. This is Manchester City. You know, at 2-0 down, you still got every chance. One goal, you're back in it. And for some reason, they've just given up. Our lads have just given up, and it's not been good enough. Anyway, Burnley have possession, 6-0 down. It's a chastening night.
Yeah, and also, JB, when I'm looking at this second half performance from Burnley, I'm wondering whether this second half performance could have an impact on the remainder of the championship season. Because I don't think he will, but you may wonder the psychological effect from these players who will go into the next championship game against Sunderland, whether this will have an effect on their performance in that game as well with this game here. I know there's an international break coming up, so maybe not. If it was say maybe next Tuesday or next weekend, potentially that could be have been the case. But maybe by the play Sunderland a week in about 10 days or so will not be the case. And just to quickly break off from this game, JB, while Burnley just passing around at the back, to let our listeners know it's finished Chelsea 2, Everton 2 at Stamford Bridge. Yao Felix and Kai Havertz for Chelsea, Abdoulaye Doucouré and young striker Ellis Sims on target for Everton. Chelsea 2, Everton 2 in the Premier League this evening.
Yeah, good point there for Everton. Leeds won 4-2 at Wolves earlier on in a very controversial game. I'm sure Russ will never tire of talking about that for many years to come if it keeps his team in the Premier League next season. I have to say, though, there was a great goal in all of that from Johnny Otto, who later got sent off on VAR. And I have to tell you that Locatelli, the Wolves manager, went absolutely guns blazing at the end of that game as well. It wasn't a pretty sight, that's for sure. But it's not looking like a pretty sight for Burnley at the moment. 6-0 down, would you believe? And if you're turning on this commentary and you're thinking, well, it's been a masterclass for Manchester City. Second half it has, admittedly. But for 35 minutes, you wouldn't have known who was the Championship side or not. It's a Championship or the Premier League side. First in the Championship or the second in the Prem. But I'm dying to hear Vincent Kompany's excuses for tonight. This is not good enough. There's no denying it at all. Going back to the point about the psychological aspect, I think the international break will come at a good time because obviously you can get back on the training field and put this result out of their edge. But I can't see Middlesbrough or Sheffield United catching a 15-point gap. It just doesn't look as if that's going to happen. Burnley will be champions. Burnley will be promoted. But what's upset me tonight, Russ, is the fact that they've not tried in the second half. At 2-0 down, they have clearly not tried hard enough. And that, with a Wembley place at stake, that is a crime. That is a crime. And City keep playing the ball around at the moment. Do you agree?
Maybe. I wonder if maybe if Burnley had pulled a goal back just before half time, which I know we both said at the time when City went 2-0 up, it was unlikely. But if they got a goal just before half time, whether Burnley's second half performance would have been a bit different. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure if it would have been or not, but you never know. If they got a goal back just before half time,
you would have certainly made it.
At half time, it would have been a completely different second half game.
Without a doubt.
For me.
Good point, Russ. Without a doubt, and he would have made for a better quality of game. Unfortunately, we've seen such a one-sided game. It's pathetic to watch. It's not the FA Cup that I know. And it's a bad advert for the FA Cup. I mean, take nothing away from Manchester City. Take nothing away from them at all. You have to be what's in front of you, admittedly. But this is not a good look for the FA Cup. And I just hope that the likes of Grimsby and the two championship clubs actually do the FA Cup a little bit more justice than what Burnley have done tonight, because it's a real sad, and Fulham as well, because I'll be hoping for Fulham have got a thankless task in Manchester tomorrow as well, just as thankless task against Manchester United. All playing into the penalty. A goalkeeper came and got something on it, and it's out for a Burnley throw in line with the 18-yard box. Well, it's not often this season I've had to say that we've been disgraceful, but this has been the most disgraceful performance in front of a live television audience as well of millions of people. Imagine how. Maybe it's just as well, really. They may have the Six Nations on. Here's Obafemi playing it in. Surely a goal for Bars. Now he stabbed it wide. And that just sums up Burnley's luck in a nutshell, Russ. Goal kick, 82 gone.
Yes, absolutely, JB. It has not been Burnley's night for one or trying. Burnley, JB, could be in next week and still not score, especially second half performance. We could still be here in 10 years' time and still not score. Ashley Barnes has got to pull that in the back of the net, or at least test Stefan Ortega there, and he's not done neither. That's a poor miss there by the Burnley man, who's really been really good this season, in my opinion, from what I've seen of the Clarets when he's played in the Championship. I'm a bit surprised he's got his Championship scoring boots on at the moment.
Well, the FA Cup, you're one game away from Wembley. You've got to question the attitude of certain players here tonight. You really do. And it's disappointing. I know it's Manchester City, and I know they're one of the best teams in Europe, and I know they've just dominated. I know they took Red Bull Leipzig for about the same scoreline on Tuesday, but certain attitudes. Burnley could still be in this game if the attitude of several Burnley players had been right. They'd not been mentally right up there, up in the head, and that's disappointing to watch. It's so disappointing because, me and Russ turned up here at the Etihad hoping for a really good cup tie. If Burnley had gone there and put up a great performance and lost 2 or 3-1, then no one would have had any complaints. The fact of the matter is, Burnley have come out and have absolutely not tried in this second half. They've not categorically tried, and have given 4 goals to Manchester City in this second half on a plate. Shows the shoddy attitude of a few players here. I know we're going to win. I know Burnley are going to win the Championship, and I know we're going to go up, and that's great. But wouldn't it have been lovely to at least have had a shot at reaching the FA Cup final, or giving themselves a shot at Wembley in a semi-final and a shot at the FA Cup final come June the 3rd? And they've only themselves to blame this second half, because their attitude has stunk. Here's Obafemi now. Surely now Burnley have got to. Burnley are trying now, and it's 6-0 down. It's not good enough. It's not good enough by half. Here's Barnes to Roberts, who's had a chasing in second half. He's been poor in certain periods, the Welshman. And this is a good Burnley side. This is a side that really are a good set of lads. They are a nice set of lads, and seeing them being pulled apart 6-0. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to watch this football. It's not good enough. And, Vincent Kompany will have to read them the riot act at full time, because it's just unacceptable. The ball with Peacock Farrell. Now, come on. Yes, he's put his foot through it this time. Can't find Obafemi, and that's going to reach Ortega, who gives it the big welly again. Roberts winning the header. It has been a difficult night. I'm going to try and gauge a few Burnley fans. I'm also on Twitter as well while I'm talking to you right now. I'm keeping one eye on the game and one eye on Twitter. And as good as Manchester City have been, it's been a frustration watching Burnley play right now tonight. It really has, because that's not a foul. That's a foul by Cullen De Bruyne, but it's not a foul because De Bruyne has conned the referee again. He's currently dived over Cullen and has conned the referee into giving Manchester City another free kick. It looks a very harsh decision from first glance. Maybe not, actually. No, I take that back. But I think it was a soft free kick.
It was a free kick. But
it was a soft one. It was a soft one, Russ. It was a soft one.
It was a correct call from the referee, but it was a soft one.
And De
obviously
Bruyne is
was played
faking.
by
I'm
De
sorry,
Bruyne.
but De Bruyne is a play actor and he's faking it. He's faking that injury. He's faking that injury. I'm not having it. 4 minutes to go. City, again, another fortuitous decision in their favour. And Burnley, what we don't want to see is a 7th one go in. Let's just hopefully City stop the scoring at 6. It's not good to see. Walker now plays it across. And, well, they made a mess of it. Well, it's nice to see they made a mess of it. Maybe City are human after all. Burnley now, they just need, come on, have a go, Burnley. Here they come again, charging forward. Taylor turns it forward, and Obafemi is onside. Cork is in the middle, so is Barnes, and Obafemi's first touch was pathetic. He still keeps the ball in play, though. Roberts, though. Zahori, that was pathetic again. They got into a good position, and that just sums up the lack of commitment. And then De Bruyne starts getting involved when he shouldn't have to with Zahori. De Bruyne just needs to shut up and watch his mouth, because that is not the attitude of a team that's winning 6-0. Throwing to Manchester City. With 3 minutes to go, I think I've got a fair idea who's going to be your player of the match, sponsored by Commentary Services. So just to rub it in any further, go on, name it, Russ. You can say it.
Then the hat-trick hero of Manchester City, their number 9, the Leeds-born Erling Haaland. Fantastic hat-trick from him. Two against when they play in the first half, and right place, right time for his hat-trick. But Erling Haaland, terrific performance from him today. Led the line well, especially in the second half when Burnley capitulated, and a few times in the first. But Erling Haaland is a player of the match, sponsored by Barry Swain's Commentary Services.
He's also the television player of the match, unsurprisingly. It's disappointing, though, because Burnley, for 35 minutes, were well in this game, and then their attitude just went. De Bruyne is coming off, and he's taking a long time. He's taking the mickey, quite honestly. He's getting the adulation of the crowd. And my Burnley bias is going to unashamedly come out. Jack Grealish is going to come on. But it's as much as Burnley's attitude has stunk in his second half, and the way they've not tried all night, it's not been a 6-0 game by any stretch of the imagination, that I have to say. But that's just my opinion. Everyone else can be entitled to their own, but it's an embarrassment, really, for any Burnley fan who has spoke out a lot of money to come and watch the game at the Etihad. I think Burnley should be offering the supporters their money back, because quite frankly, it's just not been good enough, really. And well, it's really disappointing to see. But it's Manchester City who go into the Wembley semi-finals, not for the first time. They haven't won in fact, Manchester City have not won the cup since 2019, which for them is quite a drought, because they usually win other things every other year. They've won it 6 times: 1904, 1934, 1956, 69, 2011, and 2019. Burnley, you have to go back to 1914, and it's going to be another extra year now. So 1914, so it's nearly 110 years since they last won the FA Cup, so it's probably going to be 109 years next year when they last won the FA Cup. 109, is it 109? Yeah, 109 years. Yeah. The last time they reached the semis was in '74, and they lost 2-0 when they were robbed in that semi-final by Newcastle. Thank God. Thank you, Anthony Taylor. 2 added minutes. That does not prolong too much agony, and quite frankly, play the 2 minutes, and now, to be quite honest with you, Mike, the player of the match, I wouldn't give it to any of them, because the second half is, from a Burnley point of view, is stunk. And Barnes has kicked out there, and it is frustration. Barnes will get his customary yellow card from John Brooks, and I don't think Haaland has had to work hard for it, and that's annoying. The fact that he's smiling, he doesn't have to work hard for it. That winds me right up.
Yeah, JB, for me, to answer Mike's question about the player of the match from a Burnley side, is I'd probably go for Peacock Falcons. Some of the saves he's had in the second half where it could have been at least more goals than 6, and the saves he's made, for me, I'd probably get to peak off for keeping the scoreline down. Although he's not had many saves to make in the second half, but when he has, I'd probably get him for keeping the scoreline down if I was a Burnley fan, or looking at it from a Burnley perspective. We just had to be Erling Haaland today, mate, for his hat trick, and
No,
I think you
I can.
understood that.
No, I understand that fully well. It's really disappointed that Burnley in the second half haven't laid a glove on, and that's why I'm being very chastened in my criticisms, because none of them deserve a player of the match. I know you make a case for Peacock Fowl, and he has made some good saves, but in the second half, it's not been good enough. It's not been good enough from a team point of view. And if I was to give the team a mark out of 10, it would be -10, because it's not been good enough, unfortunately. With an FA Cup semi-final at Wembley, of all places, up for grabs. And what's even more disappointing is some of the City fans have decided to go off early, which is, I think, an absolute insult to their team, who have been good value for 6. Don't get me wrong, been good value second half. Burnley are crash out the FA Cup at the hands of Erling Haaland and Manchester City. But for 35 minutes tonight, they were as good as they got. And I know people will say there's no shame in losing to Manchester City, but the second half, Benson Company's side's attitude really stunk and gave City 4 very preventable goals. Erling Haaland will keep the match ball. He'll get both player of the matches from the TV and from us, and quite rightly so, because he scored a hat-trick, but he didn't have to work hard for it, which is annoying. Alvarez got 2 more, and Cole Palmer came on and scored his first FA Cup goal since Swindon last January. So, disappointment for Burnley. They're not going to Wembley this season. It's a disappointment, really. Vincent Kompany's got a smile on his face, but there'll be a face of thunder, I would fancy, when he gets back to the dressing room. Final thoughts before we head back to Mike Russ on the match as a whole?
I think first off, if you're a Burnley fan, you can be pleased with that, and Company will probably be pleased with that in the first half, especially with how they contained Manchester City for 35 minutes and potentially a bit longer in certain parts as well, even after Haaland scores 2 goals. But the second half, I think you've summed it well, is being absolutely pathetic, and I think Company, for me, if I was Vincent Kompany, I'd be going into that dressing room at full time and giving the Burnley players a riot act. And for me, only one that comes out of that with any praise, like I mentioned, will probably Peacock Farrell. Maybe in the first half, I'll probably edge for Nathan Taylor in the first half. But overall for Burnley, I think Peacock Farrell was Burnley's player of the match. But no, who else? But Erling Haaland, the overall player of the match for his hat-trick. I think if Alvarez had got an hat-trick, it would have been close between him and Haaland. Because of Haaland having the hat-trick, that's the only reason I went for him. But Man City, I don't think they even got to first gear in the second half. And they were well deserved of the winners in the end. Based on the second half, they were. First half, there wasn't. For me, it was a game of 2 halves. Burnley the better in the first, City better in the second, and I think that's what you call, JB, the proverbial game of 2 halves. City 6, Burnley 0, the full-time scoreline.
Yeah, it's not good enough, I'm afraid. They can call and clap to the Burnley fans, but they have shortchanged the Burnley fans tonight. They have shortchanged them good and proper in the second half. It's not been good enough. You've got to give credit, of course, to Manchester City, but those Burnley fans who have come out in their numbers and have spent good money to come out there and watch their team have been shortchanged, frankly, in the second half. You come out there, you have a goal. You do not give up at all in the game. And then fans can clap the fans for the support. But I'm afraid to say that is a lame excuse of a clap. It's not good enough, but Manchester City, credit to them, they're through to Wembley. Burnley now will have to win the championship title, but they will know that a chance of a lifetime at getting to Wembley, and Wembley doesn't go round often for players of Burnley's calibre, they will never get a better chance than this, and they absolutely choked when it was when the time came. It's a disgrace, and I didn't want to watch that second half, quite frankly. I had to, and it's probably the worst half of football I've ever witnessed from a Burnley side this season, and it's a disgrace, and it's so disgraceful to watch. Credit to Haaland, credit to Alvarez for his 2 goals, well taken, and Cole Palmer with a lovely goal as well. But for Burnley, the dream is over, and it's ended in such disgrace. Manchester City 6, Burnley 0.
Thank you very much, JB, and to Russ there as well, as Manchester City progress through 6-0 winners against Burnley in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. I'm going to get some thoughts from Russ on that performance as well. And we'll start with Burnley, I think, again, because, you said it there with yourself and JB, that it very much was a tale of 2 halves. And, Manchester City there were able to kind of just do whatever they wanted in that second half. Burnley, for everything that they did very, very well in the first half and causing Manchester City some issues and, causing them a few problems, they just didn't turn up for that second half at all, did they, Russ?
No, Mike. I don't know what Vincent Kompany said to him at half time, but whatever he said to him, they didn't take it on board. For whatever reason, they thought the game's done at half time. They thought, oh, we've lost 2-0. There's no point trying now in the second half. And that's what it felt like to me. And I was watching it as a neutral, and I know that's where it felt like for JB as well, and probably some of the Burnley fans watching the game as well. But for me, Burnley in the second half gave up completely, and they didn't know where to go. And Man City in that second half, for me, was in first gear all the way through that second half. They had to be in second and third in the first half with how Burnley played. In the second half, they dropped down a couple of gears and was in the first gear all the way through the second half. And I just see Alfie Inga Haaland, Erling's dad there, celebrating his son's hat-trick in the director's box on my monitor. And but Manchester City didn't have to go out of first gear in the second half. It was a comfortable win in the end for them, and one which they didn't have to work hard for based on the second half performance. Kompany will probably be giving them a riot act as we speak right now, Mike.
Yeah, and you can see why he would be as well. I know it's Manchester City. I know they've spent loads of money. They've got some quality players. They could go on and win this competition. They could go on and potentially win the Champions League. They were in a good position for the Premier League as well, just sitting behind Arsenal. But when you look at some of these goals that Burnley have conceded, Manchester City are just cutting through them like a knife through butter on every occasion. When you look at pretty much, I think 5 of those 6 goals down to Manchester City just knocking it around like a training session.
100%, Mike, 100%. And I said it in the half time to you. They needed to play and needed to press. Al did in the first half, Burnley. But for whatever reason, don't ask me because I can't quite figure it out in my head. But for whatever reason, Burnley pressed differently in the second half. Just watching the 4th goal here from Julian Alvarez. They were backing off a bit, but then as soon as the ball went out wide, you see Alvarez run through from the middle, and you see him running all the way, and he's unmarked. Haaland goes towards the near post, which creates that space for Alvarez. You see there, Alvarez and Haaland were going to be in the same place. Haaland recognised that. Haaland moved to the right, took a couple of players there, and there was Akdal there. Like I mentioned, Conte was just standing there watching it. If he'd have gone with his foot, he would have cleared that out for a corner, and it would have been still 3-0, and Burnley may have still have had a chance to get back into the game. But for whatever reason, Burnley in that second half, the defenders fell asleep, and Man City was allowed to punish them. And
yeah,
Burnley,
I agree with that as well. And actually, just what I will say is, I said when you look at it, 5 of the 6 goals, were from Manchester City, just knocking it around like a training session. In fact, every one of the 6 goals was like Manchester City knocking it around like a training session. When you look at it, I think the only one is when you look at the 5th goal, Peacock Farrell, comes in, gets a strong punch on it, but then it just falls to a Manchester City player, and the Burnley players are just standing there like a bunch of lemons.
Yeah, and I'm just watching that 5th goal now, man. Like you're saying, why isn't Connor Roberts? I'm just watching it again here. Connor Roberts at the back post He just stops there. If he'd have ran towards the near post where he was, or the far post from where the ball came in from, he'd have probably got back on the line and cleared it away from danger. He just stood there and watched it as if to say, go on, free goal, just have a shot. And that's what Cole Palmer did, unchallenged as well. And I'm just looking at this, I think it's the 6th goal here now. Julian Alvarez takes it past Akdal there, who slips, falls over, does a back roll on his back while he's on the floor, a roly-poly backwards roly-poly on the floor, and Alvarez is left with a simple task of lifting it high over Peacock Farrell, and no chance there. And if, like I said, at the end to JB and in commentary as well, if it wasn't for Peacock Farrell in this game with some fantastic saves in the first half and in the second, it could have been at least 6-7-0. Well, not 6-7, 7-8, maybe even 9, could even be 10-0 Man City at the end of the game. And he wouldn't have, and that would have been down to Burnley's performance, but Company must not be happy, must get something sorted. Otherwise, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, Burnley's season may well and truly be over, and the performance and the title and promotion JB's been going on about may not happen.
No, I have to completely disagree with that. I think, I'm going to put a bit of common sense on that, really. I think when you look at it, you're not going to come up against Erling Haaland or Manchester City, the players of Riyad Mahrez, I should say, or Julian Alvarez, or guys like Kevin De Bruyne every single week in the Championship. This is a very different challenge and a different task to what they face on a weekly basis. And I think that, Manchester City, as we say, cut through them at will today. But that's because they've, got such quality players, international players that have gone on and won some big trophies worldwide, as well as, for their countries as well on some occasions. I think it's a very, very different kettle of fish for Burnley this game here than what they face on a regular occurrence in the Championship. And I do think that Burnley will continue on with the form that's gotten to where they are in the league, and they will certainly go on and become a Premier League team next season. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the summer, whether Vincent Kompany looks at this game at all as a potential for what he needs to do to compete in the Premier League when he gets his side there, which, as I say, he will. But for me, this is a very different kettle of fish to what they face on a weekly basis, and they'll be absolutely fine. And I'm certainly with JB on this one, that they'll go up and win the Championship title.
I can see where you're saying that from, Mike, but on the other hand, I think probably the mentality of some of these players may still have this in some back of their minds going into, say, the next 2 or 3 games that Burnley have got coming up, and that's where I see the problems being in potentially the next 2 or 3. They need to win the next 2 or 3 games to put this behind them, and then maybe my opinion will change. But I think while this is still fresh in the minds, or to look at this again towards the end of the international break, I think that will be fair. I think when they look back at this, they'll try and play right in the training sessions and going into the Sunderland game with performances like this happen. Again, you see today Birmingham Coventry won earlier. If they've got Coventry to play, Coventry on a bit of form now as well. So teams down near the bottom fighting for Burnley have got any of those. They're fighting for different points, so those will be making it hard and could cause Burnley a few problems. But I see where both you and JB are coming from. I just think this mentality, if this playing like this, if the performance don't go out to the back of the mind after this performance in the mentality side of it, I think that's where the problems may lie. But I understand where you and JB are coming from, Mike, as well.
No, and I see your point as well. But the only reason I say that is because when you look at, kind of historically how teams do after they've suffered on a big defeat like this, they tend to come back and put in a big performance. And, Burnley fans are going to be disappointed with this. They're going to be angry at the way they were just torn apart, and Manchester City were able to make it look so easy and like a training session for them. But I do think that when it comes from when it comes down to the next game against Sunderland, they're going to certainly be very, very up for that one. And, you know, sometimes when a team's smarting on the back of a defeat like this, it's the worst possible time that you can play against them.
100%, Mike, and I agree with what you were saying as well, Mike. I can completely agree with what you were saying there as well, my friend. So I understand your point entirely there, mate. But like I say, I think that could be that's only the reason I'm giving, which I think by Burnley may not go up. But I do think Burnley will go up. But on the other hand, if this stays in the mind for too long, it may have an effect on the games coming up in the Championship moving forward.
Yeah, which is understandable. We'll touch on Manchester City now. You know, it's a bit strange that they've gone on and won 6-0, and we're kind of spending all this time talking about Burnley. But with JB, obviously being a big Burnley fan who did the main commentaries for this game, I wanted to kind of talk about them a little bit first of all. But from a Manchester City point of view, you know, Erling Haaland there, scoring his second hat-trick in 5 days, scoring, you know, another couple of goals. That's 42 for the season now, I believe, for him as well. And wow, you said it in commentary that he's Leeds born. How good a player is this guy? Like, what can Manchester City achieve with him?
They can achieve big things, Mike. I think when you look at it, he scored 5 in the Champions League in midweek against RB Leipzig. Leipzig doing fairly well in the Bundesliga this season. And if performances, and if you can have more regular performances like he has done today as well, I know he's only got an hat-trick today, but he got 5 in midweek. Then I think with the performance, it was with Haaland as well, Mike. He's going to have really big things, and I can see him getting at least 60 goals this season across all competitions. Erling Haaland, he's got 42 now, and I can see him getting more goals. I can see him getting more goals, another 10 on top of that to get 52, and then even more on top of that as well. So it could end up, like 60, 65 goals coming the end of the season with all the matches City are playing in. And for a player who was said at the start of the season won't cut it in the Premier League or wouldn't cut it in English football, is a real statement from intent, especially from some pundits who said he won't cut it in the Premier League. I won't name them, should I say. That should have said there. But some pundits were saying he won't hack it in the Premier League or English football, and he's proven them wrong right this season so far.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, Manchester City now through to the semi-final of the FA Cup, still fighting on the league front as well, as I mentioned. But the one that Pep Guardiola wants is the Champions League. And with Erling Haaland up front, you know, what are the chances they can certainly be able to kind of break that and get themselves their hands on the Champions League whilst competing on these other two fronts as well?
100%, Mike, and you can see as well with Manchester City as well this season. I know they've played Arsenal in the FA Cup and got one there. They've played Arsenal in the league and done well against your team, Arsenal, in the league, Mike. But when you look at Manchester City this season, with Haaland in the side, compared to what they were like, say, before Haaland came in, I think they're just a different animal. You see, this season, just looking at all competitions, in the last few games in all competitions, they've won today against Burnley 6-0. They won 7-0 against Leipzig. They beat Palace 1-0. They beat Newcastle 2-0. Beat Bristol City 3-0 in the FA Cup. Beat Bournemouth 4-1 in the Premier League back on 25th of February. Drew 1-1 with Leipzig. Drew with Nottingham Forest. Beat Arsenal. Beat Aston Villa. Their last defeat, Mike, Manchester City across any competition, was on the 5th of February against Tottenham Hotspur when they lost 1-0. And every season, they normally lose against Tottenham, most seasons. Only seasons they don't lose against, teams they don't lose against, is in the league. Another loss to Manchester United in the league earlier on this season, and Southampton in the EFL Cup. But in the league, other than the Man United defeat this season from working, so in the last few matches, they've, apart from the Man United game on 14th of January this year, going for 2023, they've beat Chelsea twice in League and FA Cup, lost to Southampton, lost to Man United, beat Tottenham, beat Wolves, beat Arsenal, lost to Tottenham, beat Aston Villa, beat Arsenal again, drew with Forest, drew with Leipzig, beat Bournemouth, beat Bristol City, beat Newcastle, beat Palace, and beat Leipzig, and now beat Burnley. So since the turn of the year, since January, they've only lost twice. Well, 3 times. Twice in the league, 3 if you include the EFL Cup. So they've only lost 3 times in 2023 so far. And that proves that Manchester City are a good side with Erling Haaland in. And I think they probably would have done the same even if Erling Haaland wasn't in the Manchester City side this season.
Yeah, you said about the game against Leipzig there, the first leg, obviously they dropped off and only managed to get a draw in the first leg. But then, nobody that watched the first leg then watched the second leg would have thought that it was the same Manchester City side. They've got moments in them where they've sort of, they have kind of been caught out a little bit. But when they drop points or when they get a little bit of a poor result, they always seem to bounce back. You said it there. They're unbeaten in so many games since the defeat against Tottenham. But then, it's just when you're playing Manchester City, it's not just Haaland. They've got so many quality players that, you don't know how to deal with them. You don't know how to handle them. And there's just so much attacking prowess and attacking threat there, which Haaland, of course, is the focal point too. But if he misfires, they've still got other players there that can have an impact as well. And Julian Alvarez being one of them, getting 2 goals today. And, he's not featured as much as he would have liked to in the Premier League. But every time that he's played Premier League football or cup football, he always seems to look pretty decent as well.
Yeah, and what I like about Manchester City this season, Mike, under previous seasons, there's always been one out-and-out man who has been getting quite a lot of the goals. It's the same with Erling Haaland this season. But unlike past few seasons, there's been one out-and-out striker getting all the plaudits for majority of the goals. Haaland's that one today, but this season so far. But there's also Julian Alvarez chipping in, whereas past few seasons, there's only been one out-and-out striker getting all of the goals. The other strikers or the other out-and-out strikers, like Alvarez is and Haaland is, like Alvarez, he's the exception compared to previous seasons where there's just been one out-and-out striker getting the goals. Whereas this season, Alvarez is chipping in with goals as well as Haaland. Whereas last season, there was just one certain striker there, Mike. And I think we start to wrap up in a second. And Mike, do you want to go through the Premier League scores, again, the Championship scores and the Football League scores before we leave? Mike, start with the Championship first and then end on the Premier League, if you don't mind, my friend.
Yeah, I was just going to say briefly about Cole Palmer as well, another man who obviously was on the score sheet today, playing his part, getting Manchester City's 6th goal there and coming on and having an impact as well. But we'll talk about him another time. But coming through for some of the other scores today, in the Championship, it was Blackpool 1, Coventry 4, Middlesbrough 4, Preston 0. Big result for Middlesbrough. Huddersfield travelled to Millwall and they won 1-0. QPR 0, Birmingham 1 was also a full-time score. Reading 1, Hull 1. Rotherham and Cardiff match was postponed due to weather. Then also Stoke 0, Norwich 0, and Sunderland won, Luton won, and Watford won, Wigan won. So all draws in the last couple of them. From League One, it was Lincoln City 0, Peterborough 3, Accrington 0, MK Dons 1. So a big result for MK Dons as they look to try and avoid relegation. Bristol Rovers 0, Portsmouth 2, Cambridge 1, Charlton 2, Cheltenham 3, Exeter 1, Derby 0, Fleetwood 2, Ipswich 2, Shrewsbury 0, Morecambe 1, Oxford 1. Big result for Plymouth, 2-0 winners over Forest Green. And of course, they're looking for promotion. A big result for Burton as well, who went to Port Vale and won by 3-2. So a good result there for Dino Murray's side. And Wickham 0, Barnsley 1. In League 2, it's Bradford 2, Hartlepool 2, which was a 1 o'clock kickoff, I believe. Wimbledon 0, Crawley 1, Carlisle 0, Stevenage 0. That was third against second. Harrogate 1, Barrow 0, Leyton Orient 2, Colchester 2. So the league leaders, Leyton Orient, have dropped a couple of points there. Northampton 1, Crewe 0, Rochdale 4, Swindon 4. So cracking game there. Salford 3, Doncaster 1, Stockport 1, Mansfield 1, Tranmere 1, Newport 3, and Walsall 2, Gillingham 0. And then we'll go to the Premier League as well. Aston Villa 3, Bournemouth 0, Brentford 1, Leicester 1, Southampton 3, Tottenham 3, Wolves 2, Leeds 4, and Chelsea 2, Everton 2, which was the late game. And just a brief couple from Scotland as well. Motherwell 2, Rangers 4, Aberdeen 3, Hearts 0, Celtic 3, Hibernian 1, Dundee 1, St Mirren 1, Kilmarnock 1, St Johnstone 1, and Livingston 2, Ross County 1. So some big results there as well for throughout those divisions, I should say. But thank you very much to JB and to Russ for this coverage of the FA Cup quarter-final between Manchester City and Burnley. Manchester City convincing 6-0 winners. We're going to call it there, I think, everyone. So I've got some more FA Cup coverage for you tomorrow, I believe, as Manchester United host Fulham. There's also games taking place between Brighton and Grimsby, and also Sheffield United and Blackburn as well. There's a Swansea and Bristol City in the Championship, and Arsenal and Crystal Palace from the Premier League. But we'll wrap it up there. Manchester City, dominant in victory, 6-0 winners. It's not a happy return to the Etihad for Vincent Kompany, but I'm sure his Burnley side will go on and achieve promotion back to the big time. Manchester City still fighting on 3 accounts. Thank you for listening to the TC Hub, and all platforms. We'll be back for some more coverage of the FA Cup tomorrow with Manchester United against Fulham.